Good evening and welcome to Poker Night Live. My name's Mark Prince Charles Banin, and alongside me tonight is none other than the legendary John Clark. How are you, John?
I'm fine, Mark. Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah, good to have you on. Good to have you on. We're going to get John's insightful views into this wonderful game we call Texas Hold'em. Now, if you're new to the game, we're just wondering what Texas Hold'em is all about. Texas Hold'em is a variation of poker. Each player gets 2 hidden hole cards. There are 5 community cards which everyone can use, and subsequently there are 4 rounds of betting. As the community cards are revealed, 4 rounds of betting, and it's the betting that decides who are the winners and who are the losers. Now, you might have heard there are 7 cards in this so far, 2 cards and 5 community cards. That makes 7. However, you can only use 5 cards to make your best 5-card poker hand. So you take all 7, pull out your best 5, and there's your poker hand. Now, the great thing about this particular show is that we actually get to see everyone's hole cards. That's right, we can actually see all their hole cards and decide whether they were good folds, good passes, good plays, or not so good. So that's going to be the feature of today, and like every night we always show you the whole card so you can always see. Now, the show is live. That's the great thing about it. I'm live, John's live. Everything here is live. The one thing that is delayed is the actual poker. The poker is delayed by 5 minutes, and that's to stop people who are playing to actually turn on their TV and decide to see their players, the opposing players' hands. So that's where we are with that. Now, as I said, the show is live. It's also an interactive show, which means that you can actually contact the show, and there's 2 ways you can do that. If you'd like to pose myself or John a question, you can do. First way of doing it is by text the word poker to 84222. All you need to do is do that, put in your question, type your name at the bottom, and we'll have it and read it out live on air. As well as that, you can email us, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And if you have any nuances you'd like to discuss or any technical questions, that's what we're here for tonight. It's a learning show. It's the best place to learn. So without further ado, let's go around the tables, I think. Do you want to do that for us, John?
Okay, Mark. On table number 1, we'll be covering a $5 sit-and-go tournament. 8 players starting. Excuse me, that's table number 2, which may well be a $10 table, not a $5 table. No, that is a $5 table, I'm told. And moving swiftly on to table number 3. This looks like...
This is a $10 one, I believe.
This is the $10 cash table. Excuse me, $10 sit and go. 8 players. Some of our regulars on there, like Hoofy.
Yeah, looks like this one's just started, John.
And a 50-cent and $1 cash table. Different philosophy altogether on a cash table to a sit and go. Looks like the pair of kings has hit the nut flush on this particular hand.
Yeah, you could still lose to an ace or a 3 or a 4 popping up. That would make a fuller house for Snap It. Let's just stay with this just to see what happens.
Interesting hand in that you've got 2 players that have hit 2 pair. And I think now the king of diamonds knows that he's winning. He's only losing to 2 5 of diamonds.
That's right, yeah. The 2 5 of diamonds, of course, would make a straight flush. And that's the only hand that could beat him at the moment.
Pretty comfortable position to be in when you know that only 2 specific hole cards can beat you. Makes you about a 99.9% favourite.
Yeah, the only thing to worry about is likes of Snap It, who's likely to play 2 5 diamonds in the small blind, but Blue Bait is highly unlikely to play 2 5 of diamonds in that position. So he wins it. So excellent, that's an interesting hand, wasn't it?
And the final table we'll be covering tonight will be the multi-table tournament. More than 100 entrants on this $10 multi-table tournament. And we will try and catch the final table later, and we'll pop in and out of it as the evening progresses. At the moment, there are probably still around about 100 players still on that tournament.
Excellent. So lots of poker action for our viewers tonight, John. Now, sometimes we like to have themes for the evening. Have you got anything you'd like to pose to our viewers tonight?
I would, Mark. I'd like to talk about conflicting theories. If you've got any conflicting theories out there and you'd care to email us at poker@pokernightlive.co.uk, we'll read out your emails live on air. And we'd particularly like to hear about conflicting theories.
Just explain to our viewers what you mean by conflicting theories.
Well, one of the questions we get most often on Poker Night Live is how to play small pairs.
Okay.
How to play small pairs in early position, how to play them in late position, how to play them at a big table, how to play them at a small table. And I've noticed I don't know about you, Mark, but theory massively conflicts on that particular subject. We can't necessarily say what is right and what is wrong, but I'm interested in studying all of the conflicting theories, however wild they may be, and we'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, I've got one for you, John.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a lot of conflict at the moment between people that don't think that 7-8 is a very strong hand. And I'd like to understand why. I would like to hear your views on why you think that 7-8 isn't a strong hand. So there you go. So that's the email on the screen if you want to do that. poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. A little bit of tongue-in-cheek there, of course. Don't forget, send in your emails. Be read live on air. So I think without further ado, we're going to dip into the multi-table tournament. That will be the table that's been kicking off. Now, this is quite an interesting one because I believe in this particular one, we did actually start off with 101 entrants. And there are now 69 players left, so we've already lost 32. So we're quite about a third of the way through this, I guess. So we're in an interesting situation at this point. It's just kicked off. Blinds are starting to get a little bit on the meaty side, still fairly low, 25.50. Everyone here started off with 1,500 starting chips, which means that they've got a lot of play in this game. So we can see here, John, that we've got the chip leader on this table, which is happens to be JJK Bole, I think.
Was it Kool-Aid?
Kool-Aid, sorry, Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. Yeah. So JJ Kool-Aid's chip leader at the moment, and he's obviously having a good game as we speak.
Interesting, 4 times the blind raise from Queen Jack here. Who gets re-raised by Ace 10.
Yeah, he's sort of committed himself, I think, to that pot. So once he's been re-raised, he's probably thinking, well, I think I've probably got a call for the 400 now, and he's probably not far, he's probably right. He's getting more than 2 to 1 his money.
Yeah, but Ace 10 managed to get all his chips in as a reasonable favourite there.
Yeah, yeah. It was only a small favourite, I think. I don't think he's any much better than 60-40.
Yeah, well.
Maybe 62%, 61%, but yeah, not a lot of difference, I don't think. Although he was suited, so that gives him another couple of percentage points.
Okay, now here's a small pair. Mark, how would you play this?
In mid-position, I'd be raising from that position.
He throws it away.
Yeah, he's got 4 players behind him. I can't see why he'd want to not do that. And he's the 4 players he's got behind him aren't big chip leaders. If one of them was a big chip leader and he was a fairly aggressive character, then you may choose to limp in and let him raise and then you just call. But you don't want to call a re-raise with a pair of 5s, obviously. So if you've got sufficient evidence to believe that someone is likely to re-raise you and you've got a pair of 5s, then that's not the right way to play it. And you'd either want to fold that hand, call if you can feel that the re-raise won't be that substantial.
King on the dealer button here, Mark.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Blinds went up a couple of hands ago as well, John. 5,100 now.
Yeah, Ace Jack has put in a 3 times the blind raise and has been re-raised quite correctly, all in by the King.
Yeah, he's got 700. He's getting 2 to 1 his money.
And, there's another interesting conflicting theory here. What should the Ace Jack do? Should he throw it away?
Well, in a cash game, he should call if he could know all the information, i.e. He's getting 2 to 1 his money. He's not a 2 to 1 underdog in that situation. He's about 62% or something. 63, 64%, I believe. He's certainly less than 2 to 1 anyway. So if he could actually, if he was playing a cash game, he could see all the cards. He was certainly getting the pot odds to call in that situation. He was getting more than slightly over 2 to 1.
Now this time, Jack 10 suited from Andy 078 limps in for 100. Perfectly reasonable play.
But the interesting thing about that hand, John, is that because in a tournament, however, you probably wouldn't want to call, even though you're getting more or less just about the right pot odds. You need some extra
reasons.
Some extra reasons why you'd want to call that, and just pot odds alone isn't enough because in tournaments you don't get no second chances.
Absolutely.
You lose your chips, you're out.
Absolutely.
That's it. Pot odds, you can say you had pot odds all day long, but if you don't hit them, it doesn't make any difference.
And of course, the golden rule is that if you double through, you haven't won the tournament. But if you happen to get busted on that hand, you're definitely out of the tournament. Exactly
right. Yeah. So survival is a key element which you have to factor into any of your decision making. Absolutely. So
Ace 10 limping. I'm not sure I like this, Mark.
No, I think this is not a good play. Okay, we'll just take this last hand, John, and then we'll have a look at some of our other tables. So, by virtue of fortune, well, he's letting bet there. By virtue of fortune that he had ace 10 and had the guy had hit his ace, he would have got paid off, but that wasn't the right way to play it. In fact, who won it? The small blind, who perhaps shouldn't have even been there in the first place.
Shouldn't have been there had there been a pre-flop raise.
Yeah.
Typical, it's a very typical story.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
The strongest hand at the table could have won the pot, and for reasons best known to himself, chose not to raise. Queen 3 came in on the button, hit the flop, bet, and took it down. Well,
look at this, John. We've got quite a motley crew here. We've got Hoik, as he likes to be called, Hoik Balls in the top corner there. Dillboy is there as 2. El Pig, who's had a good run on these. Cat Attack, and Nash Anubis, who likes to throw away big hands when he's got the best of it. Only kidding, Nash. I'm only teasing you. He threw away a couple of big hands when he was multi-tabling the other day, and he just couldn't turn off the check fold when the third 9 appeared on the river. And he forgot it was such a crap hand he had, and he check folded it, and by the time he got round to him, he just couldn't turn it off in time. He was multi-tabling. The problem with multi-tabling. And coming in after a hard day's work.
Howick comes out betting on his open-ended straight draw and easily takes the pot down. Nice move from Howick.
Well, a limper from Mopper. Early position limper with the ace 10. Not a big favourite of my manoeuvres there, but he's decided to. In fact, he's in good shape, but unfortunately too often he won't be. Well, that's not a bad flop for our big blind there. And he's let it go. And he's betting with the worst of it.
But does the 7-2 know he's ahead? He does now.
Yeah, he's pretty confident now, isn't he? And Rob was hoping to gain another thing from Mopper, and I think he lost an opportunity there to get a couple of chips in. I would have actually liked to see a little bet on the flop there, but I don't mind the check there. The only problem is Mopper is always going to bet in that situation. He's third to act. He's seen weakness from the other two. He's always going to bet. The only problem with Mopper there is that his bet was too weak. He was only put in a minimum bet, and when the pot was 400-500 or whatever it was, he was always going to get a call, or 300, I think.
Okay, ace 10 in a bit of trouble here, Mark, against ace king. Ace 10 called the ace king's pre-flop raise, and presumably gets off the hand, as he does. Yeah,
well, the problem was that he didn't follow through. You know, you're going to put out a bet with ace 10, you get it heads up, you've got to, and a flop like that comes down, you've got to hope that, you know, you've got to feel pretty confident that you're probably ahead in that hand. You know, an 8-high board, you've got ace 10. Of course, we can see he wasn't ahead, but it would have been difficult for, I think, Cat Attack to call that, or they might have felt that that was just a continuation bet. Who knows?
And Delboy picks up the nut flush draw, doesn't hit it, but he's still
a straight draw. Yeah,
he's still comfortably ahead, and never bet it, for reasons best known to himself.
Oh, difficult one to bet. There was a lot of scary cards there, wasn't there? Possible straights.
Ace-ace with Nash, Mark.
Ah, but the kind you want to talk about is Delboy. Look at that. He's got a 7-8. What's he doing?
No, but we've got ace-ace up against queen-queen here, and we're going to get fireworks, Mark. This could be an all-in. It's a baby re-raise, followed by another baby re-raise.
Wait.
And he's picked up the flush draw, and he could crack the aces with any spade coming down.
Yeah, well, he's going to go all in here, isn't he? He's not folding. Well, I don't know what he's really playing at. Is he waiting for a big card to come?
Yes, he's hit the spade on the river.
Gosh.
And
yeah, Nash Anubis, I think he played a little bit too slow once those 3 spades come in. He should have just pushed all in. I mean, the guy would have called him anyway. It makes no difference. Nash, you would have the same result. I don't think that was the right way to play it, but I think the same result was inevitable.
I think they were both slow playing it to a degree, Mark.
Well, I don't think Nash could slow play it once that flop came down with 3 spades and he's not got a spade in his hand. So you can't slow play it anymore. You've got to put the other guy off it just in case he's got a weak spade.
Well, all roads led to the result we saw on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The outcome was going to be identical.
Let's not forget that in poker, some hands you are just simply destined to lose all your chips.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
No, absolutely right, John.
A pair of kings isn't going to improve with 2 kings out there with other people's whole cards.
No, he's drawing to a straight though.
He's in tremendous shape.
Although one of the jacks has gone too. So let's see what he does. Well, he's put a little catchy bet there. He's trying to get Delboy involved. He's thinking 250 more.
He's not going to call this.
He might do. He's got position, but he doesn't. No. He decided not to. After the last 3 spades that appeared, he might have fancied his king of 7 spades. He thought maybe there's a little story there.
Interesting table of rags here, which ends up with the blinds fighting each other, or not if cat folds, which he probably should do, and does.
Okay, we're just going to do, taking a couple more hands, and El Pig wins it with the ace king, hitting 2 pair. Very nice indeed. And just a battle of the blinds here, although Del Boy's got a nice little blind down there, not too bad for the big blind. Could be better, could be worse, and Rob doesn't want to know with his piece of filth there. Not a very nice hand at all. It's nice to throw it away. And, well, we've got this little limper here from us. Don't like the King-Jack limp, but you might think that that's it's a fairly placid table. I haven't seen it like that. And, now he's having to call with the worst hand, which isn't good. Now Hoyk has to put in a bet here, and King-Jack fold. Yeah, don't like that 70. I'm sorry, I don't like that. I don't mind it if you've got lots and lots of chips. Then I can sort of yeah, I didn't really like that with the King-Jack. Limped under the gun, got raised, calling. You know, he's out of position. Lots of reasons not to do that. If you had lots of chips, then maybe, but you know, you haven't got a lot of chips, so I don't think that's a good rate. So we've got a couple of emails to do, John.
Okay. Which
and then we'll see what other poker action we've got. So let's do some emails. First one is from Wayne. Hi, Wayne. And Wayne is saying, hi, great show as always. I'm after your advice on how to play limit games. I'm only playing 25-cent, 50-cent games, but find I sit for hours playing tight poker and only seem to make a very small profit or break even whenever I play. I play aggressively, or as aggressive as you can in limit. I fold anywhere between 80 to 90% of cards pre-flop per session. Should I loosen up and try to taste straights and flushes to the river? I'm currently really only playing pocket pairs, folding to a bet if an overpair comes down and I didn't hit the set, and suited aces, suited kings, on sometimes suited queens and jacks if I've had no action. Any advice would be great, thanks. Okay, have you played limit, John?
Not very much, Mark. I much prefer pot limit or no limit. Just reading Wayne's email again here.
Yeah. Well, let me give you my input while John's doing that. I'm not a limit expert, but I've certainly played limit, and I've certainly got a good understanding of limit. Limit is very different to no limit, obviously. Now, the way to decipher, to make it easier for you to understand, is that let's take it down. We've got 3 different games, haven't we? We've got no limit, we've got pot limit, and we've got limit. Now, obviously, pot limit is known because a lot of British players will know pot limit a little better than limit, and the reason they know it is because it's something that is generally played quite a lot in the cash games in the UK. So that's one reason. Now, the thing about limit games, it's counted as a bit more of a drawing game. Why? Because unlike no limit, generally you can't put all your chips in pre-flop, which means that you've got to play flops. And if you've got to play flops, guess what? You're going to have to draw to certain hands. Now, if we take it a stage further, we take it down to limit, you're going to have to play more drawing hands. The likes of aces, kings, queens are very vulnerable. Why? Because you're always going to get lots of people in the pot, and they're going to be drawing all the time to these hands. So the thing that I would say is, yes, you definitely need to loosen up. Playing 80-90% is probably a no-limit style. You'd be better off playing no limit with 80-90% of cards rather than limit. So my strong suggestion would be certainly loosen up a little bit. And yeah, you do have to chase straights and flushes. Now, bearing in mind you've got 2 small bets and 2 big bets in limit, i.e. a small bet pre-flop, a small bet after the flop, and then a big bet on the turn, big bet on the river. So guess what that means? It means that you can draw fairly cheaply pre-flop, and you can draw fairly cheaply on the flop. Now, a lot of players, and that's really up to your own style, a lot of players will actually draw to backdoor stuff. And what I mean by backdoor stuff, they'll actually draw, if they've got a 3-card straight on the flop, i.e. they've got 6-7 and a board comes, I don't know, 8-4-2, they might take another card. They'll be prepared to pay for another card if it's not too expensive. In other words, to see if they can draw a 9 or a 5. In other words, giving them an up and down straight draw. Okay. Same with flushes. Depending, though, you really want to do that with a king or the nut flush draw. You don't want to do it with anything too lower than that. So certainly loosen up a little bit, and you do need to be more. It's much more of a drawing game, whereas No Limit is much more of an aggression game. Yeah, it's more of a technical game, and there's certainly a lot of books you can get on Limit.
What I'd like to know, Wayne, if you'd care to take the trouble to email us again, would be to let us know why you're playing Limit. Limit games are dominated probably 10-1 by No Limit games. You've chosen to play Limit. You don't actually mention why you're choosing Limit. You've obviously got your own reasons. Email us again and let us know why. For my own input to your questions, you're probably aware that the big difference between Limit and No Limit is that you're trying to build the pot early on. If you've got a good hand, you're going to get a lot of people in the pot drawing along, but you've got to keep that pot building and building and building so that the final raises can be larger than the early raises and you can get paid on the hand. That's my basic understanding of Limit, but I don't pretend to be any kind of an expert on Limit.
Yeah, there are different ways to play. There are different ways to play, and it certainly depends on the limits you're playing and the players you're playing against. You know, obviously you have to, like any form of poker, you have to adjust to the playing styles. So it's certainly a good game to start off with and learn, because it does mean that you can start off fairly cheap, and it means it won't be that expensive for you. And it gives you a good understanding of the game. And I would recommend to a lot of No Limit players that haven't played Limit, have a go at Limit. It will actually give you a different insight into the world of poker. So without further ado, let's head over to another poker game that we have for you. This one is, I believe, a $10 sit and go. So let's head over there. And there we are, and we've still got all 8 players. 8 players started this one. Just to give you an idea, we're watching a $10 sit and go. This one is started with 8 players. We've still got all 8 players there. And they were given, we've just lost one there, and they were all given 1,000 in chips. And the idea of this one is to make the last 3 places. Obviously, it's a knockout tournament. Once you lose your 1,000 chips, you lose your seat, and it's a last man standing event. It's a bit like, if you're comparing it to a football game, it's a bit like playing in the league, whereas a cash game is a bit like playing in the league, and a tournament is a bit like playing in the FA Cup. Once you're out, you're out. No coming back.
Okay. Nash picks up. Nash surely was on the multi-table.
He was, yeah, absolutely.
Or may still be on the multi-table.
Well, we were talking earlier about Nash throwing away big hands, weren't we? Mm-hmm. And multi-tabling. He hasn't learned his lesson, that naughty boy Nash.
He's in a bit of trouble here, Mark. But
he is, but he's fortunate that the ace has come down to warn him.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's actually scared about the ace, probably, but...
the trip 9s is slow playing. Can he find another check here? No, he doesn't. He tries to... Oh, he gets re-raised. Okay.
Yeah, he played it well up to that point, didn't he? And then just made...
Yeah. Skinner slow played the trip 9s, convinced Nash that he didn't have an ace. No way Nash can read him for trip 9s.
No.
Thinks his queens are ahead, calls a big bet, and retires to...
I thought Skinner let him off the hook there with by betting, but it was not to be.
Retires to another table.
Yeah, he's one less table to worry about.
And very unfortunate in that he had a pair of queens as a starting hand, and he gets beat by a pair of 9s.
Yeah. But yeah, that was difficult. It's very hard. He did have a little bit of a get out there with the guy, you know, with the ace coming down. What's the worst thing about hitting a set is when you've got the top pair on the board or the overpair to the board, it makes it very hard to escape that. Mm-hmm. Another pair here, John?
Yep, presumably a raise coming here, and the king 9 will presumably throw it away.
Skinner showing some good discipline there, but also probably the fact that he just won a pot made him think that I don't want to give away these too quickly.
He's also chip leader, and being chip leader means you don't have to play any hands that you don't want to play. Doesn't mean that you should completely throttle back. But once again, Skinner plays tight and doesn't try to steal the blind, even though he had a king. This could turn into a confrontation between the blinds, ace-jack and ace-10 suited. Ace-jack will presumably raise, and should. And ace-10 with hoofy We've seen him throw these away before, but he comes over the top and puts puck all in. And barring a 10, Hoofy, I'm afraid, one of our favourite survivors, is obliged to go all in on the small blind. And he's caught a piece of it, but PUFC boy has got a higher pair, and it's probably goodbye from Hoofy. And then we're down to 5 with 3 players cashing.
Well, that was quick, wasn't it, John?
And this dropping like flies, Mark, on this table. $9-10 on the dealer button, suited. Probably doesn't realise he's in pretty good shape here. Probably won't want to risk too much given his stack, and throws it away. Queen 5 has no idea he's in fairly reasonable shape, tries to steal the blind. Booty Chasey rises to the occasion and finds the call, and is going to get rewarded unless a 5 or a queen comes on the river, which of course it does. And Will Tomcat, is that Will Tomcat? Yes, manages to double through.
So 5 players left.
These are the critical moments in a sit and go that determine the cashing positions, obviously. Will Tomcat, I'm afraid, isn't going to get paid on his pair of aces. Often the way when you get them on the big blind. Skinner notably lays down an ace there, pre-flop, leaving Will Tomcat to steal Boudichesi's blind, which he does. And Skinner picks up the pocket rockets on the big blind. And he's probably not going to get paid on this.
Well, I think Will Tomcat might have a little stab at it. Let's see. He might think his king is good, so he's trying it. Now, Skinner doesn't like to slow play, as we've picked up. He slow played a little bit, so yeah, that was always going to be the case. He's always going to re-raise. And Will Tomcat has got his answer.
I wouldn't criticise the flat call there, Mark, frankly, with the aces.
No, I don't think the flat call would be a bad thing. I think I would prefer a minimum raise, personally. Draw the guy in. Do you feel that he's pot committed to just calling another minimum bet? But
Ace-9 goes all in, and may well pick up the blinds here. Ace-4 knows he may be dominated, and makes a very tight lay down there. All rags here, Mark.
Yeah, not much going on.
Okay, we've got a few technical difficulties here, which is why the commentary is flagging a bit on this table. We're having trouble accessing your emails that are coming in thick and fast.
So let's have a look at the action. We've got a pair of sevens for Puck Jr. Will Tomcat with the Jack Queen. Well, he's picked up a gut shot straight draw. Not the most exciting board for Puck Jr. there. And he's got away with it though. No Jack, Queen or King appears, which means that Puck Jr. will take that one down. So that pair of sevens holds good.
And now we can see who's going to get bubbled, Mark.
Yeah, one player's not going to get any money here. And PFC Boyd says, I think I've got the best hand. I don't mind getting on the bubble. You're not going to bully me.
And he's drawing dead, in fact.
He is now, yeah. So Puck Jr. can't win this one, which means that PFC Boyd doubles up. And he says, yeah, try that on one again.
Now, talking of conflicting theories, Mark, when there are 4 players left, is this the best time to bluff, or is it the most dangerous time to bluff?
Well, it depends really on, I think, on situations. And when I say situations, it depends on whether you can afford to bluff for a start. You know, bluffing costs. And I don't think you can afford to bluff at any point your whole stack off. And sometimes if the blinds are too high, then that's what it means. So whether it's 4th, 3rd or 2nd makes no difference.
Well, Puff definitely thinks it's a good time to bluff. This is a semi-bluff, I suppose. Skinner has no way of knowing that he's all over him with the 7-7, but I think he's going to lay it down, Mark.
Yeah, I don't blame him. He doesn't want to put himself in a 50-50 here, and that's a good laydown by Skinner. Now, you say, well, why is it a good laydown when he had the best hand? Because in the majority of cases, he won't have the best hand. If you do that, if you play that particular situation 20 times, then Skinner will be up against the 50-50 for some of those times. He will also be up against an overpair for the majority of time. Mm-hmm. It's less likely that POFC Boy is doing it with 2s through to 6s, just by aggregate alone.
And Puff has played himself into a chip lead here by pure aggression. Mark?
Yeah.
Picks up an ace pre-flop, which is huge, 4-handed. Again, very aggressive raise. Gets called by the Jack-10, who catches a piece of the flop and is now miles ahead. Only an ace or a 4 will save Puff from doubling up Buttigieg. And indeed, Buttigieg hits a second pair on the river and doubles up.
Yeah. I think if you're going to call in that situation, Skinner, I think it has to be 9s or above. I don't think you can do it with 8s. I certainly don't think you can do it with 7s. Not for all your chips, not in this situation. I think it's just too chancy. Unless, of course, you believe that the guy who's doing it is a wild, aggressive player and he could be doing it with anything, then that's a different kettle of fish. But you see, the problem is, even if he is doing it with anything, the majority of the time he still will have 2 overcards on you, which means that, you're only going to be a 50-50 for the best part of it. Of course, remember that in terms of underpairs to those 7s, there are only 5 possible holdings. In terms of overpairs to those 7s, there's obviously 7 different holdings. So just based on that alone, there's a high probability that he's going to have an overpair. Obviously, there's a big chance that he'll have 2 overcards. So I think that's a worthwhile lay down. The only problem is he probably would have needed to have followed it up with the very next hand by a raise of his own. And I think he just let himself run a bit dry, but he's got back into it. And now the pressure's on Puck.
Well, for the blinds at this level, Mark, this turns into a bit of a lottery here, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, POFC Boy is playing it very sweet now that he's got the chip lead. He realises that no one wants to go out. He knows that Buddy Sessi doesn't want to get involved because he's second in chips, and the other 2 are, on the verge. Life support is on. So
Puff will find an easy call here. He's ahead, but not by much.
Well, look at that. He's flopped the straight. So that'll be pretty nice for him. No outs for POFC Boy now, unless a Jack and 10 came, but that's not going to be the case.
He hits trip 9s and still loses.
Absolutely, it's not good enough. And Puck Jr. says, thank you. Oh, look at that. He's been rewarded with aces too. Now
how's he going to play this? All in minus a bit.
Yeah, I would have just flat called personally.
Flat call was where the money was there.
Yeah, when you're short like that, I'd play it sweet. Well, King 9 against King 10. He's in a favourable position. Can't really see how Buddy says he's going to get out of this one, barring a 9 appearing.
That's all it is.
And it doesn't. So the 10.
Suddenly
hold on a sec. Does he split pot?
Yeah, it's a split pot.
Yeah, it doesn't play with that board pairing like that. 6 is ace, king, queen. That's right.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually only a 9.
No, it was a 6 as well.
Yeah.
So Buddy says he getting away with that one, and Skinner won't be too happy.
Skinner's been bubbled.
He has, yeah. He just got a bit unlucky that Puck actually found a hand. Unlucky, Skinner. I know you look back on those sevens and with regret, but I really do think that was the right move.
Oh dear. Oh, look at this, Mark.
Well, he's going to win this one. Puck goes from 0 to hero. He's got a house full. Queens full of jacks. Very nice indeed. And we have a new chip leader. He was out a minute ago, wasn't he? Practically out.
Practically out.
He only had about 360 left.
Puff was chip leader, and now he's got to stick it all in on Jack 7. Picks up the flush draw.
Has a heart.
Puck gets bottom pair.
Heart or a jack, or a 7, in fact. No.
No.
The ace appears making 2 pair for Puck.
That is the
incredible
end of that tournament.
He was out. He was on his deathbed, wasn't he?
Well played, Puck. He picked up
life support was on.
Yeah.
The doctors were hanging over him, weren't they? Ready to turn it off.
And they did turn it off, and then he
survived.
spluttered back into life again.
Yeah. Well done, Monsieur Puck. And as you can see, he got quite a nice little ratio there. He raised 14% of hands and he only called 4% of hands. So that's a nice little ratio there, quite aggressive. In fact, the top 3 or 4 all played pretty well there. Even Will Tomcat, who departed early. Never mind. Okay, so that was pretty interesting stuff. So let's have a look. Should we do an email?
Okay, what have we got?
Let's have a look what we've got. We've got an email from Stamper. Stamper's our Los Angeles buddy, who's out across the pond there. So let's see what he says. Right, he's saying, Stamper, thanks very much for your email once again. Always good to hear from you. He says, tell me, is there any reason to push all in with a pair of kings, queens or jacks during the early levels of a sit and go? I'm leaning towards no, because anyone who would call that bet would likely have a stronger pocket pair or an ace with a strong kicker. So that means a decent chance of busting out. What do you say? Okay, well, certainly there's a big difference between kings and queens. Don't think there's a huge difference between queens and jacks, although there is a little bit of a difference. Would I go all in with kings? I don't see that there's any problem going all in with kings if that's the way you want to play it. It's not the way I prefer to play it, but I don't think it's such a bad move. For the simple reason that you will, in sit and goes, get people calling you with tens and jacks and and queens and and ace 10 and ace jack and ace queen because they're suited and stuff like that. And of course, you are a big favourite. Now you've got to realise there will be points in a sit and go where you do need to take chances. Now whether you decide to go out 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th or 4th makes no difference. If you're going to take a chance at this stage, you might as well take it with a very strong hand. And let's face it, kings against any other hand against except aces is a very strong hand. So I can't see a reason why you wouldn't want to do that. I would, however, by the same token, I would play queens and jacks much more differently. Certainly when I'm in a live sit and go, I will play them much more softly. I'll limp in, and I use that for 2 reasons. One, it's deceptive, and 2, if I do hit a set, then no one will ever dream that I've got this hand. So that's why I do play jacks and queens, and in fact any pocket pair of sub queens to that extent, although I will play kings and aces strongly. That's my way. What about you, John? You've been playing a lot of sit and goes recently, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Stamper mentions that is there really any reason to push all in with king, king, queen, queen, jack, jack? A simple answer to that is yes, certainly there is a reason to push with that hand. Depending on how much is in the pot, what your liable risk and return is. If you've been heavily raised pre-flop and you're sitting there with king, king, what you know is at that particular moment you are only losing to one hand. And if you're going to worry about one hand, yes, it happens, but if somebody's dealt ace ace when you're dealt king king, that's one of those hands where you're probably destined to lose all of your chips.
In a sit and go you almost certainly are, yeah. In a sit and go with very little structure, you're going to lose your chips.
Since you asked, Stamper, I would most certainly push all in response to a chunky re-raise pre-flop or chunky raise or re-raise pre-flop. I would simply push all in with king king and queen queen. Frankly, jack jack is different. We know that the hooks are considerably more vulnerable than queen queen or king king, and we see them getting taken off all the time. The
thing I'd like to the caveat to what I said a moment ago is important because you mentioned about queens. You'd obviously, by the same token, I said I'll play queens a lot softly, By the same token, I would play them softly, but if someone decided to raise me, then I play them aggressively. Then I'm going to be re-raising. I'm not saying I'm not just a calling station at this point, and I might do that with jacks as well. I don't think I'm less likely to do it with jacks, but certainly queens I would do that with. However, if there's not been a lot of action beforehand, then I will certainly limp in with queens for deceptive value, as well as you know, not wanting to go out on that particular hand.
Yeah, Stamper, you also mentioned that you seem to be somehow worried about a call with an ace and a strong kicker. Well, if you've got king-king, you'd love to be called by ace-king, or ace-queen for that matter. You're a monster favourite, and all you can do in poker is get all your chips into the pot when you're a monster favourite.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're doing well if you can get all your chips in as a 45% underdog in the later stages of the tournament, when some of your actions are forced by your relationship between your chip stack and the level of blinds.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you are a big favourite in like John said, you are a big favourite. You know, I think it's about 62%, something like that, in that area with kings. I can't remember exactly what it is against an ace rag. But the important thing to remember is that if you are in a situation whereby, let's say, there's not a lot of structure to the game, then that's a good hand as any to do it with. If there is a ton of structure, then that's a very different kettle of fish. You might want to not commit all your chips to that. Okay, thanks very much for that, Stamper. We've got an email from Zitty. Now, we also had an email from Danny, but I've mistakenly deleted it. So, Danny, if you're hearing and you're watching and waiting for your email, send it back in to us and I'll read it back out next, I promise. Email from Zitty. Evening all, I've got a little problem. Can you help, please? I've been doing okay recently at low-level tourneys, and I've been getting into the money pretty frequently. Now, I've said that I'll probably get nothing for the next month, but it doesn't matter if I get heads up stage, short stack loaded, I just can't seem to finish it off. Any tips, please? Maybe some suggestions of a good book. I'm not panicking because I'm playing pretty solidly up to that point, but I just need to get through it. Any help, pretty please? What's your heads up game like, John? Have you played much heads up?
Only in the finals of sit and go tournaments. Unlike you, Mark, I'm not a heads up specialist. I know you've had a tremendous record heads up. I believe in the world's heads up championship, you came second. Is that
second,
right?
yeah.
Thank you. Done my research on you.
Yeah, so I see.
I tend only to play heads up when I'm in the final of a tournament, generally a sit and go tournament.
Yeah.
Let me just read the email from Zitty again. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I get to heads up stage. I just can't finish it off. I see. So he thinks he's got a problem with heads up play.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll tell you, there's two ways you can play heads up, Zitty. First of all, the first consideration is what are the blinds compared to your chip stacks. That's the first thing. Now, if they're very high in relation to it, they're taking up a big chunk each time, then it's a free-for-all. There's no real trick to it. You know, you just got to play aggressively. There's no real hidden secret behind it. You just got to be ultra aggressive, and that's really about it. You just got to pick your moments. Unfortunately, you're going to be picking most of the moments because you'll just need to stick your chips in. So that's one thing out the way. It's a bit like these heads-up tournaments. If you're playing, you know, these heads-up sit and goes, when you get to heads-up stage, you're generally crapshoots. So, you know, whoever's the most aggressive. We saw Pucker there doing it a couple of times, and before, PUFC boy doing it a couple of times, and before you knew it, he had a chip lead, you know, just from doing it 2 or 3 times, and he ended up second. So that is the one thing. However, if there is play, then there's 2 ways you can generally play a heads-up scenario. I'll do the opposite of the way I play. But the first way of playing is by playing aggressively. I will play aggressively post-flop, but I won't play aggressively pre-flop. Okay, so I'll tend to limp in with all sorts of big hands. You know, I'll quite happily limp in with ace-king and play flops with people and try and outplay people on the flop. And hopefully they've limped in with ace-9, or I might catch them with something. So, by the same token, it is a dangerous way to play if you do that. By the same token, I'll say that if you are actually playing the opposite style, which is aggressively, then a lot of people will actually raise with ace-king, they'll raise with ace-queen, they'll raise with any pocket pair. But it is difficult because the problem is if you've got an opponent who will call, then you just don't know where you are. If you're raising with a pair of 5s and you call, unless you hit your set, you just don't know where you are, and you've done a lot of chips in this pot. So that is one way of playing. If you're playing a conservative game, like I play pre-flop, then I'll limp in a lot of the time. I'll look to see flops, and I'll try and pay people on flops. My suggestion would be this, and that is, I can't tell you a good book because there just isn't one on heads-up play that I can really say is a really good heads-up book that I've come across. However, my suggestion would be this: what I would suggest is, why don't you play heads-up tournaments? You can actually play little mini tournaments where you get the same starting stack. Instead of, they're basically sit and goes, but they are sit and goes of 2 people. Okay, you start off with 1,500 chips or whatever the software site gives you, and you heads up to a finale. And that's a good way of doing it. You can play $1 sit and goes, $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever it happens to be. So you can play for low levels, and you get a tremendous amount of practice and heads up. And that's really how I ended up playing it. I was touring Australia. I spent 5 months in Australia. A lot of the places I went to were dead at night. I had dial-up. I used to dial up, I used to play heads up for half an hour, 45 minutes, and I used to play that for about 5 months, nearly every day. And that's how I became good at heads up play, purely by doing that. But I did have a unique style, and I tried a lot of different things. So that would be my suggestion. That's the best way you can learn.
Nice one, Mark.
Okay. So thanks very much for Zitty, and keep us informed. We'd always like to hear how you're getting along with that. So I think it's time to head back to a cash game. So let's see what cash games we've got on offer today. And don't forget, Danny, sorry about my misclick there. So if you are listening, please send your email through again. So let's have a look. We're watching a 50-cent $1 cash game. This has a maximum buy-in of $100, minimum buy-in of $10. You can get up and go as you please, or you can sit down as you please. The only thing that's required is an empty seat, and as you can see there, seat 6 is now vacant, or it's vacant for the moment. If you're seeing players with more than $100, then it tends to mean that they've got it off some of the other players at the table. We can see...
Surely it only means that,
Geff,
Mark.
I'll call him Geff.
It's the only way you can get more than 100 is if you've won it from the other players.
Absolutely.
Surely.
That is the only way.
Given the $100 is the maximum bring-up. Of course, on these tables, the difference between this and the sit and goes is that the blinds never change.
Yeah, no, they don't change. So that's the great thing about it. It tends to mean that as long as you've got the full starting quota, you've got lots of play. So we've got here a big blind who's got absolutely nothing, and Ambience won't be letting this go. And I do like this play by him. Do like this play. He's got backdoor flush, and he's got an up and down straight draw, and he's just hit his card that gives him the lead. Now. Muster is wondering whether that card is any good to him, whether Ambience has actually got the king. So he's probably praying for another 10 to appear. Well, he doesn't realise if a 10 appears, he'll be in serious trouble.
Did Mustang call his re-raise?
He did, yeah.
He did.
He called. Well, we had a 3-card straight, and he was obviously trying to make a bit more. And Mustang thought, OK, well, you must have the king then. Well, of course, we can see he just had a 10 with a better kicker. And Ambience played it very aggressively. A little too aggressively, I must say. To a certain degree, in as much that when someone does play it aggressively like that, it tends to mean they'll be playing other hands aggressively too that don't really warrant it. But we'll see. At this moment in time, we'll call it a good piece of play and see if he disappoints us.
One of the differences between a cash table and a sit and go is that you're liable to see more flops at a cash table than you are at a sit and go.
So we'll just take this one more hand. Look at this. Mustang is playing 10-2 this time, and he's actually hit a flush on the guy. It didn't make any difference. The guy's got nothing, but... and poor old Snap It. He's in a big blind. 8-5 suited. Looked good before the flop, but not much good on the flop. And Mustang thought his luck was in there, raised, winning with a small blind with 10-2 offsuit.
Yes, well,
yeah, maybe he's a Doyle Brunson in the making.
Well, a bet from his opponent would have taken the pot, I suspect, with the almost a nothing flush, the absolute bottom flush.
Yeah,
may well have laid it down to a raise there.
Yeah, might have done. Right, well, it's time to go and take a little break. But before that, we're going to go to see if we have someone to listen to. Who might it be? Okay, and I think we've got Tony TK Kendall on the line. Are you with us, Tony?
I'm here, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I've got with me tonight John Clark. Now, I don't think you've met John before, have you?
No, but is he not the backgammon whiz kid?
He is. Well, he's not so much of a kid, I don't think.
Yeah, thank you. It's a while since I've been called
Nor
that,
am I,
Tony.
but I like to be called one.
Thank you very much, though. And,
a whiz kid.
And welcome to Poker Night Live, Tony.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So, John's with us tonight. He's going to be giving us his input as a backgammon expert. He's actually a world champion, I believe, aren't you, John?
No, Mark.
Okay.
Yet to be world champion. British #1 ranked.
British #1, that was it.
For some years.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Tony, we've got a lot to talk about today. First thing I wanted to ask your opinion of is I've heard about a World Poker Association.
That's correct.
Yeah, let's just kicked off. What do you know about that?
Well, a gentleman called Jesse Jones has. There have been a number of attempts down the years to start a governing body for poker, which represents the game and the promoters and the players. Something that's desperately needed, as you well know. Jesse Jones is an American veteran, a man of great distinction, integrity, and well respected throughout the game. Has actually got around to starting one up. Its mission is to regularise tournament play throughout the world, to standardise structures and rules, to promote players' interests when they are involved in the media, so that if they're appearing on TV in a high-profile event, they get some sort of recompense for it, and generally to regularise and govern the game of poker, which is the last remaining big sport-stroke game that has no structure to it whatsoever. So on that basis, I think it's an excellent initiative. The first question I would say to you is the membership fee for this is $50.
Uh-huh.
Would you pay $50 to join it?
Well, I'm very tightly with my money, Tony, so I'd have to find out what it was. What was in it?
Exactly. I have to say that my first reaction was one of caution. Having seen the mission statement, I'm now happy to say, yes, I would support it. However, it's an American-based organisation. We need something local to begin with.
Yeah.
And if they was prepared and willing, and part of the plan was to set up a base in the UK, as it were a UK branch and a European branch, which could represent us locally, then certainly I'd be all in favour of helping it go along the way. We do need something, and this is better than nothing.
Yeah, I think there are plans for that. The reason I say that is having a look at their website. I see Barney and I think Joe Beavers have joined up as founder members.
That's correct. So that's excellent. These two guys are well respected. If I had one criticism of the bunch of guys that are promoting this, is they're all high-profile names, and that's wonderful. They're all men that are reasonably respected. But, you know, we do want representation from the foot soldiers. These people matter as well. The thing that worries me most of all, and there's no suggestion that they're not going to take care of this, but the thing that does concern me is the guy that plays the £10 rebuy in Bradford, the £10 rebuy in Swansea, the £20 freeze out in Luton. We must remember these guys. These are tomorrow's big players. These are the seed corn of the future of poker.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we must never forget the bread and butter comes from the basic buying level. This is where 99% of the players play.
Well, this is where we all started,
well,
isn't
having Phil Hellmuth and Barney Boatman and Joe Beavers and Barry Greenstein, wonderful. But we must have representation from the ranks.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I actually played with Jesse a couple of years ago, and one was on the satellite before the main event for the Aussie Millions in Australia, and the other time was on the final table. I played with him as well. So
I know
man,
he's overcome, believe it or not, he's managed to overcome 3 battles against cancer.
I know. He's had a number of operations on his throat, I know.
Yeah, I believe he has a voice box now, but he's fine and sturdy and strong, but I wouldn't advise smoking too near him. He gets a little out of his bed, and why not?
Yeah. Right, okay. Well, that's been an interesting topic to talk about. And I think we've got probably a lot more to talk about over the next segments, Tony.
Okay.
Are you going to be with us in about an hour's time?
Of course I am. I'll be ready and waiting when you call me.
Okay, excellent. Well, that
Thank
was
you,
Tony T.K. Kendall from Blonde Poker, and we'll be talking about some other stuff a little later on. We'll see you after this. Good evening and welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles Banin and John Clark. Now, we've got our usual Beat the Presenter tournament raring to go, and John's going to be doing that for tonight. So all you boys, take good care of John when he eventually plays on that table. So we'll be coming back around midnight to see how John fared. In the meantime, however, we have got some cash games and other tournaments to have a look at. But before we do that, let me remind you, there is an interactive show. We'd like you to get in contact with the show, and you can do that in two ways. First way is by texting, and there it is on your screen. Text poker rather, the word poker, to 84222. Put your question in, sign it at the bottom, and we'll have it and we'll read it out live on air. As well as that, you can actually email the show, and the way to do that is poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. Put your email in, put your name in, give us your question. Me and John will answer it as best as we can. So without further ado, let's head over to our multi-table tournament. We were watching that earlier, and let's see how these boys have progressed. So far we've got 23 players remaining. Now this is quite an interesting part of this tournament, because it usually means that players will start to be a little bit more cagey as they get closer and closer to the money. So, just to give you an idea on the prizes, there's a prize pool of a little over $1,000, $1,010 to be precise. 10 places will actually get paid. First place will actually get $303. Second will get $202. And if we move that all the way down to 10th, that makes it 10th place for $15.15. So lots of potential prize money there, and they're all going to be aiming for those top 3 spots. Let's see who's going to do it. So we'll have a look at some of our regular players first, and we'll zoom across to some of our other tables. There's only 4 tables to have a look at, so maybe we can have a look all 4. I don't know. We'll see what our boys can do in the back there. So 2 pair for Blade Brown. He's going to take that one. Del Boy didn't have very much there, apart from a missed flop. So we've got a pair of 9s for Del Boy. He likes that, and he thinks, yeah, that's good enough to stick 1,200 in. And no one's going to come back here. No, and that's 600 for him. So he puts 1,200, risked 1,200 to win 6. He had a fairly nice hand. Pair of 9s, pretty strong hand. Was early on though, so he might have been a little bit wary of that. Give you an idea of, I'll give you an idea about how some of the earlier players finished. We're down to, at the moment, 23 players, and some people that you might recognise. Fast Bandit finished in 28th. PUFC boy, who we saw earlier, he finished in 32. Cat Attack 33. Kev Steele 35, and that's just to name but a few. We're now getting closer to the business end. 10th place is what they want to aim for. They don't really want to aim for 10, but they certainly want to get some kind of return for their money. Our earlier chip leader, I can tell you, JJ Kooley is still in there pretty strong. I'm not sure if he's still chip leader, but he's, I know he's still in there, battling away. And how's your luck, Johnny? Managed to get a seat?
I'm in. I'm on a $5 sit and go table Burgundy.
Ah, excellent stuff. Okay.
Seat 1.
Well, you must have some real quick fingers there, John. You got in there pretty quick. So whilst John's doing that, I'll take over commentary here. And we can see a raise here from Ricky with the aces. And he would have liked some action with those. Unfortunately, he's still got no action, but he did pick up 600 in blind. So that buys him around, although I'm sure he would have wanted a bit more out of it. He wouldn't have minded so much on this hand if he just took the blinds, I think. He won't play him this slow now. Oh, look at that. Well, that is dangerous. I don't like that, I must admit. I don't like it at all. Very, very risky. You're basically saying that you want to be knocked out of this tournament. It's a big risk. You're basically risking 5,000 chips to win 600. That's really what it boils down to. And it's a very risky manoeuvre. Can't complain with it though, because that's the way I used to play, to be perfectly honest with you, when I first started playing tournament poker in my early days at Luton. That's the sort of thing I would probably have done. not being a flop person at that point. Well, look at this, just talking about flop person, Blade Brown is now, because look at that, he's hit a huge hand, and he's praying that a 7 comes, because that will give El Pig the straight, and of course, with a full house for Blade, that's exactly what he wants, to be paid off by a big hand. Unfortunately, El Pig has missed his straight draw, wasn't a particularly good one, and that could have been a double up for Blade Brown had El Pig hit that straight. So we'll just take one more hand off this table, and it's quite an interesting one to take in. Look at this. We've got Ricky, who this time he's had 3 good hands in a row, hasn't he? Aces, 7s, and aces. Sort of within the space of about 5 hands. So he's got aces. This time he will get paid because he's got 7E with queens. And we know that 7E doesn't like to lay down. And he must be a little bit concerned about the king there, 7E. So that's helped out him a little bit. And he just decided, Ricky's just wondering whether he's got a hand that could be losing to. But I think he needs to value bet this, and he is. And he has to pay him off, yeah. So, good piece of play there by Ricky on the end. So, let's have a look through the matrix, what table we've got next. And this is the chip leader table, I believe. And it's Rajan, who's current chip leader. He's got 13,000 chips. And this is the only time in a tournament where people do have to watch out a little bit with the blinds and their chip stacks, because he's the chip leader and he's only got 30 times a big blind, a little over 30. So this is probably, out of the whole tournament, this is always a stage I feel that gives the least amount of play. Certainly at the beginning there's lots of play, certainly at the end there's tons of play. So let's see how these boys will play with their diminished stacks. Well, having said that, no one's really desperate on this table, as I can see. I mean, even Gullo has well over, he's got 11 times a big blind, so he's fairly comfortable. No big rush for him to get involved with any mediocre hand. And on to the next hand we go. Button moves round to River Daz, as you can see. He's got that famous button. Obviously, a button in poker means a dealer. And a dealer means best position post-flop. Of course, by position, I mean that you're going to be last to act on every betting round after the flop on the 3 final betting rounds, which gives you a good insight as to the makeup of the other players. Well, that was a strange bit of play by Walsh. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done that. I would have actually liked to have seen Zion put a little bet out there. See how his pocket pairs fared. Now, the problem is he's just calling. And I don't like the factor of calling with the pair of 8s. I would have liked him to have actually bet out on the flop with that ace-king. He's had 2, and the reason I say that is because he's had 2 players already checked to him, so he's only got really, in effect, 1 player to beat. And if that player hasn't got an ace or a king, well, even a king he might be tempted to fold. I think he might have even folded that king if Zion had put out an interesting, questionable free feeler bet there, but he didn't elect to, so that's the end of that one. No money for Zion. Not at this stage anyway. Who knows? So no one's got a hand here. First to bet will probably take it. Well, what a dangerous play by Zion. And I really don't understand this play, to be perfectly honest. You say, well, Mark, it's a good play. Look, the guy's folded. Yeah, he's folded, but the problem is when he does it in future and the guy calls. It means he's had him beat. So he's basically risking 5,500 chips to win 12. Now, if the same token, you could say, well, he's got a tremendous read on the guy and he knew that he wouldn't be able to call because he had rubbish, then that's a different story. And I appreciate that those situations will come across. From a technical point of view, it's a very dangerous play. And in poker, you tend to get technical situations as well as creative situations. And it's a way that you mix your creative element with your technical ability that makes you a good player in poker. Well, this is interesting. They've both hit top pair, and they're both stacked up in chips. So this could be, we could see a bit of chip movement here. At this moment in time, it's going in Rajan's direction. And it's still going in Rajan's direction. Only a 4 will stop it going in Rajan's direction. Nothing else that can come out that will actually prevent the money being shipped over, barring some kind of miracle bluff there by Ardenfast. Okay, I think we'll take in this one more hand, and then I think we'll get back to our cash games. Don't forget, if you want to contact the show, always love to hear from you guys. poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. If you've had, John was talking about conflicting theory. If you've got conflicting advice that you've been given by maybe even a couple of the presenters who've said one thing and the other presenter have said something else, or you've read something somewhere and somewhere else some other professional has told you something different, perhaps you'd like us to discuss it here. Give us your thoughts. Any conflicting theories that you'd like to discuss? Well, Ardenfast is, Zion is getting a bit of his own medicine here. This time Ardenfast is doing it. Well, this is really aggressive play by these boys. Okay, so here's the email address, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And you can also text us. Poker. Text the word poker to 84222. Put your question in, put your name at the bottom, and I'll read it out, and John will answer it. Doesn't sound any better than that. Here we go. We're through the matrix into our cash game. We were watching this a moment or two ago. This is a 50-cent $1 cash game. Trip. 9's for tragic. And he likes that. He was hoping to see more or less a straight on the board there for him with his Jack 9. That's really what he was probably hoping for. Instead, he got Trip 9s instead, so I'm sure he'll be happy with the outcome. And Tragic Trev, one of our regular players on here, as you can see, he's doing pretty well so far. Maximum buy into this is $100, and he's sitting there with 153, which means he's added 53% to his takings tonight, which is pretty good. So we've got Benny Pump with the flush draw. And he bets it out, and he takes it. How's it going, John? Up and down?
Ask me in 10 minutes, but I think I'm bottom stack at the moment.
Ah, okay.
But I did have my 10s taken off by a pair of 4s.
Okay. Don't give us too many. We've got, see, there's a real motley bunch there on that table. Gosh, I would, if I saw this bunch on this table, I think I'd probably just stay away. There's not much edge here you get in here, are you? Yeah, should be an interesting one. So back to the game in question. Hope you boys are behaving there with John at that table.
I can't get a call. I'm looking for action. Can't get a call.
Do you want to call, John?
Not on that particular hand, thank you, Mark. But I will the next time I raise.
There you are. He's told you, boys. Well, we've got Ambience with the flush draw. He was thinking to himself, I would have liked to see a bet by Ambience there. And the reason I say that is because he had a flush draw and he also had an inside straight draw. And with a board of 4-4-2-6, let's face it, there's not going to be too many people that hit a board like that unless they've got a, unless they've got an overpair to the board. So I would have liked to have seen a bet there by Ambience. I think he could have won it there with a bet. And if he doesn't win it with a bet, then he's always got some outs to fall back on. So we've got King Queen against a pair of twos. Would have, well, I hope he's going to go for a check raise here, Fox. He's not worried about the ace. I would have liked to have seen him put out some kind of bet here. A little bit on the scary side, but... And now he's going to be taken... Oh, well, good check raise there by Fox. That's the kind of strength I like. I think that's a dangerous way to play it, mind you. But it worked out okay on that occasion. I think the reason I say it's dangerous to play is because you don't have that many more chips. So it is a little bit on a dangerous side to bet practically your whole stack in that situation. Well, we've got Gefar Mos, who's decided to make a little minimum raise with the ace-jack. Probably wants to see where he is, whether anyone's got a bigger hand than him. Hence is why he's raised with the ace-jack. Well, he's been called by Nilo, who likes his jack-8, and Fox does the right thing in throwing away his 8-3. Horrible little hand. Well, this is a good little bet here by Gefarmos, and I like the bet, and the reason I like it is because he's actually asking the question. He's actually saying to Nilo, listen, do you actually really have a king? How do you like that king on that board? Because I need to find out. I don't want to just keep calling you, and if not, then if I raise here, then it might make it cheap enough on the next couple of streets where I only pay you small bets for your king, whereas I still believe that my jack is best. There you see. This is a very good play by Geff here. I like this play. He's followed it up. He's sensed weakness. He's smelling it now. He's smelling the fear. And he says, well, if you're checking, I'm going to bet. You've got a very weak king, you've got a poor jack, or you're on some kind of draw. Either way, there's a good chance that I can bet you off this. So a good piece of play there by Geff. I like that. Certainly the right play. Yeah, I'm not mad over this play though, calling with a 3-5-10 suited. I know you might have felt that you're getting some kind of odds, but it's a horrible little hand. You're looking for a flush. It's not a particularly good flush even if you hit. And when you do hit, not many people are going to pay you because they can see that there's lots of diamonds out there. So don't like it really. Well, it comes down to this. He's trying to represent something much more than he's got. Oh, and look at that. Fox didn't do what Geff did a moment ago, re-raising with a second pair, and because of that, he's actually paid the price. He's now been outdrawn, and Geff now is convinced that he's ahead, and he's just value betting this. Yeah. Well, there you are. What do I know? It's runner on the end to make him his trips. Looked a real pig of a hand at the start and even on the flop, and miracle on the turn, miracle on the river, and Geff wins a nice little pot off Foxy. Not so foxy now though. Well, top pair for Fox, and well, I don't know really why he's slow playing it. It's not that big a hand that he wants to slow play. Ace-10, he wants to charge people for seeing more cards. Well, it's worked out okay for him because he's got the guy with no hand at all and no draw to bet out. Interesting to see whether Geff will fire another bullet at it. And I don't blame him if he does, to be honest. He's played it so weak, Fox, he might think that he's really weak. And he wasn't. But he felt that he was weak. Ace-5 for Fox. He's going to limp in. Yeah, I don't like this very passive sort of play here by Fox. And a pair of threes for ambience. He's going to raise it up. Okay, I think we're going to take one more hand. We've got a couple of emails streaming through, so we'll take one of those. King 9, 10, 3. What a horrible bunch of hands. But Benny's got a nice hand. 10 Jack suited, very nice indeed. Wins you a lot of money when you play them correctly, a hand like that. And Benny couldn't do much more in that situation, so he just takes down the blind. Okay, so time to do an email. Concentrating hard, John, I see.
Chip leader.
Chip leader, wow, okay. Well, I've never been in that position, I don't think. No, I tell you, I have actually, but it don't last very long. Anyway, let's move swiftly on. We've got an email from Puck Jr. And this is a nice little email. And thanks for emailing in, Puck. Puck says, thanks for a fantastic show and great commentary. I've really learned a lot by watching. Thanks very much for that, Puck. Much appreciated. I thought earlier when I had aces and you recommended that I just call, that it conflicts with the theory that I bet each hand equal amounts, whether I'm bluffing or not. That way, the others can't read my strong versus weak hands. Okay? I felt that in the short position, if I only call the big blind, I was giving a free shot and a big blind would be suspicious of just a call and wouldn't give me action unless they hit very well. Thanks again. Well, I'll tell you why I said I think you should call, Puck. It's quite simple, in that you had, if I remember correctly, the situation was that you didn't have many more chips. I think you had a little bit more than double, around 2.5 times whatever, you know, the 640 or whatever it was. And the problem was that I felt that this is an opportunity for you to double up, and I felt that if you raise, then you're not like, you know, there's a chance, unless the guy has a big hand pre-flop, that he won't call you. So I think you needed to force, the way I look at it is that you needed a forced call in that situation. And the only way you can force them to call is by making the big blind actually call. So in other words, the only way they can do that is by not betting. And not raising, in other words. So you're forcing him to play 9-4, I think it was, or something like that, and hoping that he hits a 9. Now, if he hits a 9, you know, and that happens to be top pair, then he's going to pay you off, and that's really the trick behind it. Whereas if you raise pre-flop, you're just going to scare him all away, unless they've actually got a big hand. So that was the thing. And the problem was that you are now, I think, 5-handed, 4-handed, I'm not too sure. I think it was 4-handed. And the chances of them having a big hand behind you, let's face it, is slim, you know, so that's why I would have slow played it. It's just like if you're in the big blind, you know, if you're in a small blind, you're in a small blind and you've got aces, you've got to take a view on it, haven't you? Do I want to take a risk or do I just want to scare the big blind off? You know, you've got to take your view on the players as well. And if you feel that the big blind will call you, then by all means raise. But if you feel that there's a good chance they'll fold, then, you know, I think you need to slow play it because you're not going to get too many of those situations. But in the end, I think it worked out okay for you, didn't it? Because you won, if I remember correctly. So it didn't do you too much damage. And who knows, if the flop came 9-4 deuce and the guy sitting there with 9-4, you say, why didn't I raise with it? So there you go. But I think in that situation, that's the only time I wouldn't raise with aces. But you're right, generally you should be raising and not letting people know where you are. So it's a good email there. But that was the reason where you sometimes need to differentiate and differ from the generalized theory, because in Texas Hold'em, situations change all the time, and that's the thing, isn't it? They change all the time. There are many different situations, and you can't have just one situation where, at the end of the day, you know, that one answer suits all. It doesn't exist in Texas Hold'em. There's so much creativity to it and so many different situations. So thanks very much for your email, though. Hope that answers it, and if it doesn't, who cares? Anyway, so on to back to our cash game we were watching. So let's head over there. So we've got Queen 5 for PLC at 26. Now this is an interesting hand we've got here. Well, what a hand we've got developing. We've got all sorts of callers and limpers and recalling raises, all sorts here. We've got jacks for snap it, and he's pretty, in a way, I guess he's probably pretty happy that an ace is there, because it tells him quite clearly, but now he should bet. And he is destined to lose some money in this pot, but he needs to find out whether the last guy has got an ace or not, and you can't do that by checking, so please snap it. Put in some kind of bet, probably around, perfect. I was going to say between 8 and 10, he's hit it nail on the head. Nice bet by snap it. 8, I would have personally preferred around the 10 mark, but 8 is good. And Nilo is asking the question back. I have an ace, but it's not that great. Do you like your ace more? He's saying to snap it. Of course, we can see snap it hasn't got an ace. So he's saying, no, I don't like my hand at all now. So about how much is he priced into this? Well, he's getting 8. He's getting 5 to 1 his money. And he's not that far off. Well, in fact, no, he's a fair distance off from calling there. Yeah, so I think that's a wise fold, dear Snap It. So let's have a look at some stats that we've got for you. Pre-flop folds. No, we won't have a look at some. Oh, sure we will. Okay, and we can see who are the tightest players on the table, and that tells us that Tragic Trev is the tightest player at the table. 80%, he folds the most. Very unlike Tragic Trev, certainly not like his singing. And Geff, who is the loosest player on the table. He's folding only 64%, and that's not that loose, actually. 36%, it's loose-ish, relatively loose, but it's not manic loose. So I tend to play around, probably around the 32% mark. So I'm not far off. I'm sort of in the middle of those guys. So there you go. I'm sort of semi-loose player, if you wanted to call me something. I've been called worse. Been called better too. Pair of jacks for Snap It again. He likes those jacks. You meant to give them back, Snap It. How will he play it this time? Well, ooh, that's interesting. Tragic Trev raising with a Queen 10. Very bold play there. And we've just seen how tight he is, supposedly. You wouldn't have thought that of a tight man, tight aggressive. Well, he needs to hit. He needs to snap it to hit one of his jacks now, so that Tragic can get paid off. Unfortunately, he's only got 2 outs, so what's it to be? And of course, the problem is that if he does hit it, and we can see the Jack of Hearts is already out there, but he doesn't know that. One of those jacks might not be any good to him, because it might bring a Jack of Hearts, which might make someone a flush. Snap It says, you know what, I think I'm in the lead. I'm going to put a bet out there, and he'd done more or less the same as before, although the ace before was more of a scary card, which is why Snap It bet a little less. I think this time he felt that the king wasn't so scary, so he bet out a bit more. So good piece of play there by Snap It, I think. Well done. Certainly has come leaps and bounds since we last, when we used to watch him. So we've got nothing for both players here. So which nothing will win? We can see Nilo's actually got a slightly better hand, but it's equivalent of a nothing. They both got backdoor flush draws. In other words, they need 2 running cards to make a flush, 2 clubs for ambience, 2 diamonds for Nilo. He decides, if you're weak ambience, I'll bet. See if I can take it. And he's not got much of a flop there. Ace 6-2. He thinks, well, I don't think you got an ace. Do you feel that comfortable with a 6 or a 2 in your hand? Probably not. If I make my bet big enough, I can probably take this one. So good, probably a good piece of analysis by Nilo. And Benny is wanting to play. Now Nilo wants to play too, I'm sure. He's just thinking, how do I play this? What is the best way? Well, he's made a minimum raise, and unfortunately, a minimum raise here is only, well, it's only 3 because the raise was actually 3, which is why it's gone up to 7 and not 8. Now, this is some help to Benny Pump. Sometimes with the 10s you do get your 10s being the overpair. In this case, it's not the overpair. He's got 2 cards against him. And Nilo won't like that flop too much either, because that's starting to flush, it's starting to straighten. He's got a bit of a blocker on the straight. In other words, there are 2 of the kings are in his hand, so he probably will want to round this one off now, and I think he'll be putting in a big meaty bet here, probably around 30, 35. He needs to really ask the question. About 30 will do for me. 35 is equally good. He needs to make it strong enough to see where the guy stands. Well, see, he's not going to fold, surely. He's folded. Nilo, I think you're multi-tabling, aren't you, dear boy? And you've thrown away 26 bucks. Not good, Nilo, not good. And I would like to say a big, big thank you to Rob, who sent me an email. I like stories. When did you actually want me to read this one, Rob? That's the only thing. When did you want me to answer it? Today? Next week? I'm only kidding. I'll assess the... Pair of nines for Snap It this time, a set of nines in fact. A little bit worried about that board. Well, look at this. Snap It is being bold here because there's a straight on that board. Oh, sorry, what am I talking about? Doesn't make any difference. He's flopped the house. Oh, going blind there. And look at that. And PLC thinks, oh, I've got a straight. How can I fold this? Well, he hasn't got the nut straight, though, so he could have folded it. And look at that. Got paid by everyone. Trip sixes pays him. The straight pays him. And Snap It says, thank you. That was a nice little pan there, wasn't it, Snap It? I bet you like that one. And he put in just the right amount. That's a nice little bet as well. He put in just the right amount to induce some calling. So, well done by Snap It. Really nice little pot there.
Oh, get out of here. Excuse me.
So we've got a tragic chef with up and down straight draw. Well, Benny is saying, I don't think you've got any of that. I haven't, but I think I can take you off it. I'm pretending to limp in with aces.
Oh, God. Okay.
So don't tell us too much info, John, about what's been going on there. No emotions in poker, John.
Stay tuned for the Beat the Presenter. It's not a dull table.
No, no, with that motley crew it wouldn't be.
And I've never seen so many pocket pairs in all my life.
Okay, well that'll be certainly interesting viewing a little later on when we watch John take us through the the emotional moments of his Beat the Presenter tournament.
Great fun.
So, Ace Queen for Nilo, he says, I want to play, and I want to play for 4. What do you boys want to do? You want to call me? You want to raise me? I like my hand. Do you like yours? And Geff is suggesting he doesn't. Well, he's called. Well, he's decided that I'll call for 4. If I hit a set, then maybe I'll get lots of chips off you. The only problem with that, Geff, is I don't mind so much, but the problem is that 4s is a pretty weak hand to call. I agree, if you do hit your set, you will get, you'll potentially get a lot of chips, but the problem is that you've got to make sure that your opponent hits his hand. And that's the thing. Got to make sure that your opponent hits his hand, otherwise you don't get anything.
Okay, back with you, Mark. See what we can...
So, yeah, you can do some. I'm going to have a rest now. You've had a rest for the last half hour, so I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have a little sleep.
Okay, Ace-King nicely positioned on the dealer button here. Just waiting to stick in a raise, probably a re-raise here. And let's see if... Oh, he flat calls with the Ace-King. I think he should have re-raised that, and Tragic Trev probably should have thrown it away. Now PLC doesn't know where he is, and Trev may well come out betting this because of the flat call in the first place. He does, and now you couldn't blame PLC for throwing this away. It's all because he didn't re-raise pre-flop, and that's exactly what happens. Nice continuation bet from Tragic Trev. He's raised pre-flop, doesn't want to lose the tempo by backing off, despite the fact he didn't hit the flop, and a hand that actually had him dominated threw it away. Always nice when you win a reasonable pot with the worst hand. One of the nicest feelings in poker, wouldn't you say, Mark?
Very nice, yeah.
Ace-Queen suited, puts in a 3 times the blind raise, gets a call from 10-10, catches his ace on the flop. The 8-8 also called. And he will presumably bet this, and might get a call from the 10-10, probably won't from the 8-8. The 2 hearts on the board also threatening for the other pocket pair players. 6-6 on the small blind. Sitting pretty, especially up against jack sticks. He'll probably try and steal the blind. And does so indeed. Queen 10 suited. He should play this hand. 4 folds in front of him. Excellent play from the Queen 10. Doesn't just limp in, puts in a 3 times the blind raise, and gets Ace-6 off the hand.
Yeah, not a good call there from Geff, so he decided not to, and that was the right move.
Yeah, and Nialo got full value for his pre-flop raise there. Hand that was actually ahead of him, and that had position on him. No, excuse me, he didn't have position on him, but he laid it down nevertheless.
So Snap It's getting a freebie. And I would like to see a snap bet here from Snap It, definitely. He wants to see, or a check raise. He definitely wants to see, a check raise would probably be the better option here. Well, Snap It, well, maybe he's just want to induce a bluff from PLC, 26? Well, that's not a bad, once Snap It's checked it a couple of times.
Yep. You couldn't blame PLC for thinking he's ahead now.
Yeah.
But does Snap It know that he is in fact ahead?
He must feel pretty strongly he's ahead. I'd definitely like to see a check raise here from Snappit. Well, it's been checked anyway. And Snappit should put a value bet. He must know he's ahead now, so definitely a value bet. And if he does...
I've got a feeling Snappit's going to throw it away if PLC can rise to the occasion and put a bet in here, Mark.
It depends how much the bet is, John. I don't think he's got enough. I don't think that he can make the pot big enough for him to throw it away. I think he's going to put a couple of dollars and Snappit will call that. I think Snappit should have value bet this. I think he's missing an opportunity. He must have known that his 10 is good here. The guy's not going to check twice with that kind of board.
Benny Pump picks up the Cowboys on the big blind, and fortunately for him, Nialo in third position has got Queen. I think we're going to get fireworks here, Mark.
I think we are going to.
And the Jack 9 is called in first position. And I'm assuming that the King will re-raise here, Mark.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best play that he does, and that's the right bet for me. You know, he doesn't want any sort of medium aces to call, ace 10, ace jack, that sort of thing. He wants to make them pay, and that's going to put a stop on the action.
Both of them are going to be scared of the ace.
Yeah, and that's helped Nilo no end.
Well, Benny's not having any of it.
Yeah, and that's a good bet by Benny.
And a tremendous lay down by Nialo.
Yeah. Pair of jacks there for Benny Pump. He's raising up. He's getting a few hands here, Benny. So, Queen 9 for Ambience. He decides to raise. He's going to get... Now, why is Ambience raising here? He's had an under-the-gun raiser. And he's raising a Queen 9. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. Well, he's raised under the gun. He's raised it. The guy's called him. So, carry on, Ambience. You know, how many checks do you want if you're going to... You know, you don't expect to hit miracles with a Queen 9. You have to play it after the flop, so you need to continue bet it. At some point, if not on the flop, then at least on the turn. I don't mind a bet on a turn, and well, you left it too late there. There's no reason why he doesn't think that his ace queen is winning in that situation with that raggy board. You know, and your bet didn't really tell a good enough story, I'm afraid. Snappit. Come on, Snappit. Don't want to see you. I hope you're going to check raise here. That's a pretty good flop for your... Yes, he does. Good boy. Asking a question. Do you really have anything, Ambience?
Yeah. Ambience says, yes, I really do have something.
Yeah, I don't believe it. Because, I mean, it's... first of all, you've got to ask yourself, and this is the thing, you've got to ask yourself, well, what kind of hand could he have here to warrant a re-raise? A set? Is he likely to re-raise with a set? I don't think so.
Snappit's going to hate that ace. Yes,
and he wouldn't have bet out so much in the first place. Yeah. So I think Snappit read it well. He looked at it and he thought, well, what kind of hand could you have here to re-raise me? Well, that's a brave bet there, Snappit. I think that's a dangerous bet, but a brave one. I think the 9, if he did have a 9 in his hand, he would call you. So I'm not too sure that's the best way, the best thing to do in that situation. And that's, you know, might call you not figuring you for the ace. But who knows? We should never know. Okay, I think we'll take one more hand, this one, and then We'll have a look at some stats, and I'll probably have to leave this email till after the break from Rob, because this one's huge. It'll take me all of the break to read it, I think. Pair of threes from Geff, and Benny. Well, he might have wanted Geff might have wanted to stick out a little tiny bet to see if his threes were any good with a Jack 5-3 board. There's a chance that you know, your threes could be good in that situation. And once again, we can see it's not. But the thing that you want to consider is that your second to act, there's only 3 players. You see, Benny could have done that with absolutely anything, Geff, and that's the problem. You're letting him basically do that with absolutely anything. And, all right, in this case, he did have a genuine hand, but in a lot of cases, they won't. You know, they'll see, OK, you 2 boys have checked, I'll bet, and I'll take it. Anyway, moving on. We've got some pre-flop action stats. We can see that Ambience is top of the board. He's been the most aggressive so far. He's been raising 22% and doesn't like to call, which is not too bad for no limit hold'em. And at the other end, Snappet's been a little bit on the passive side, I feel. I think he's trying this check raise. If I were you, Snappet, I think you need to tone down the check raise. I think you're looking too much for check raise opportunities. So I think you need to be that little bit more aggressive on the flop or on the turn, perhaps, and be the initial better sometimes. I think you're just waiting for everyone to check raise, and I think that was evident in the 7-10 when you had 7-10 earlier. I think you were prepared to check raise, but I don't think you were prepared to bet out. And I think you missed 1 or 2 opportunities to build the pot up. But anyway, there you are. So we've got some emails all waiting for, and as I said, I'll do Rob's one afterwards. But in the meantime, we've got one from Delboy, and this one is from Delboy saying, "Hi guys, months ago I heard you talk about playing 7-8 mark, and have where possible always played them. I can honestly state that I cannot ever remember them matching up. Are you trying to take my money, mate?" Well, tell me what table you're on, Delboy, and I might be. I'd like to improve my game, but lose consistently to bad beats, and most recently being Queen Jack in the hole and a flop of 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's pretty nasty. Being the big blind, I bet and got put in all in by the chip leader. I got called and he had kings. Yippee! I've doubled up until the turn and river came Queen Jack. I was not happy. I was the last on the table and went out 7th for $36 instead of $3.60, which was first place. I know, cry me a river, great show, Mark, and one day I would like to send an email saying I've won with your 7-8. Well, what I will say is that you do need to play them carefully. I won't play them all the time, you know. If people are raising and I'm early position, I'm throwing them away. If I'm late round the back and I can get in fairly cheaply and I'm getting decent odds, then I'll tend to play them for a small raise. But you do have to play them carefully. You have to remember that any hands that are drawing hands, for the majority of cases, are going to miss. You know, they're going to miss a lot of the time. So when you're playing drawing hands, guess what? You're going to have to do your fair share of bluffing in order to win. But you've got, by the same token, you've got to pick the right opportunities to bluff with. So that's the thing. It's about picking the right moments. There's no point bluffing a board of, you know, I don't know, ace, king, or sorry, let's make it different. Let's say ace, 8, there's an ace, 9, 4, for example. Why? Because a lot of people play aces, and if you're trying to bluff on that, then they've probably got an ace in their hand. The kind of board you want to bluff with is perhaps something like, I don't know, 2, 3, 10. You know, there's a good chance that no one's got any of that, and they're not going to feel that comfortable with it, even if they have got some of it. So they're the kind of things, and that's what you have to do with drawing type hands, those sort of suited connectors. What about you, John? You have any sort of favourites?
What you mentioned about 7-8 mark is also true. It's also relevant to mention that it's the sort of hand that you can get off very easily.
Yeah.
Because it's fairly clear whether you've hit the flop or not. If you've hit it, somebody else probably hasn't.
Yeah.
And therefore it's that much easier to get off the hand, particularly 7-8 suited.
Yeah.
I like 7-8 suited. I play 7-8 suited all the time. An interesting thing about 7-8 suited is that it's actually the best hand to hold if you're up against a pair of aces.
Yes, I know. Yes, 7-8's lovely hand there. Very nice. Okay, let me give you some quick contact details. If you want to contact the show, you can do. These are the ways to do it. Texting poker 284222 will get you there. You need to put in your question and your name. Also, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk is the email address. And don't forget to, during the break, have a look at our website. Fabulous forum, lots of great stuff on there. www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Time for our phone-in. Let's see if Tony's still online. And I think we've got Tony TK Kendall back on the line. Are you still with us, Tony?
I'm still with you, Mark. Still waiting.
Excellent stuff. Now, the question I have for you is how comes you are with us tonight? Because Luton have the festival this week, and I thought that you and the Blonde guys and El Blondie himself would be down at Luton playing. In fact, tonight, I believe, in fact, he should be there tonight, doesn't he? Because I think he's got, there's an Omaha tournament. I know how much Dave likes Omaha.
It'd take a very good excuse for him to miss an Omaha tournament in the UK, but he has one tonight because tonight is the press launch, the media launch of the Blonde Masterclass, which effectively is a poker school in which tonight we've had 30 assembled journalists, players, and when I say players who come to learn the game, one of the people that's come along tonight is a certain gentleman called Joe Grech, which I'd hardly class him as a beginner, so we think he's spying.
Oh, what is he... what's Joe doing there? He's not a part of the media.
Well, we think he's come to learn off of Dave, quite frankly. We think he's trying to get some hints. But we're here in Mayfair, in London's West End. We're in
very plush.
Very plush surroundings.
Yeah, very nice.
And we've had an introduction by Dave about position, about players' habits, about tells, about bet sizing, about patience, about discipline. Very, very interesting. But then we had a fascinating question and answer session, which was golden. The floor was thrown open for questions to Dave Colclough, I think twice European Player of the Year, Lifetime Achievement Award, one of the great tournament players of our age. And he unloaded his answers on them for over an hour until we had to stop it because really absolutely fascinating. It was incredible. And what we do have some guests here from blondepoker.com. As you know, the aim of Blonde Poker is smile, poker with a smile. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure people understand that it's a game that, no matter how important and serious it is, it's there to be enjoyed. And so we promote good conduct, good behaviour, plenty of nice atmosphere, good competitive poker, and that's really the basis of it. So that's why Mr. Goldclough has had to miss the Omaha tournament at Luton, which is rather sad. But we'll be back at Luton later in the week. Yeah. They have a main event. The main event of the Luton Spring Fest is really one of the most fascinating events. So there'll be a live update, one of the famous blondepoker.com live updates.
Because you cover that, don't you, Tony? You cover all the tournaments in terms of, running commentaries, in effect, on the forum there.
That's right. Every weekend, wherever the main event is, there is a running commentary on the web. And the difference with this one and most of them is that this one's interactive, and so it's an evening's entertainment. There's a bit of fun goes off, where chat with the members. Anybody can ask who's got... Somebody can put on the web, on the forum, how many chips has Mark Banin got? Is he still in? Is he going well? The family supporters come on. It's a great night. It's great fun.
So it's fully interactive.
That is the whole point about it. Instead of just, with the best one in the world, when we read web updates of poker competitions, they are a little dry. Yeah. And you get an update every 15 or 20 minutes. But we do them slightly different. They are non-stop and they're interactive. So it's a sort of party atmosphere develops and everybody joins in. We have a little competition to see who thinks going to make the final table, who's going to come first, second and third. And it's taken off like a bomb. People enjoy it. Yeah, excellent. Well, I can see you've certainly got a big membership there, haven't you? So that's pretty good. It's growing rapidly. Poker is growing rapidly. And really the whole basis of this is to make sure people understand that poker is a good game. It's a game that needs to play with some integrity. But most of all, poker with a smile. Excellent. So tell me, talking about poker with a smile, do you still have your blonde hair? What's funny about that? I said, no, well, nothing. I'm just wondering if you still have it. Yes, I still have it. It's almost compulsory as part of Team Blonde. Yeah. They worked very hard on me for 6 months to get me to go blonde. I paid the ultimate sacrifice. It brought a lot of people, if not happiness, amusement. Yeah, but you didn't have that much of a transfer, did you? I mean, from the from the lighter shades to from the grey area to the blonde area, it's quite easy to do. You were probably only in there for 5 minutes. You mean from grey to blonde, don't you? Yes, and there are several areas mid-crown which are wearing a little thin as well. I think it's called premature balding. Okay, it's great been talking to you, Tony. We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much. You're welcome, Mark. And we're going to take a short break now, so don't go too far away.
Good evening and good morning, should I say. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles, Banin and John Clark. Now, very shortly, we're going to have a look at the Beat the Presenter tournament that John took part in. We'll see how well or poorly he did. So before we do that, though, we've got an email to do from Rob. I did say I'd do it after the break, and here we are. Now, based on your conflicting theory, John, he wants to talk about small pocket pairs. So thanks very much for your email, Rob. I'm going to try and cut this as much as I can, because it's really, really big. But it's he talks about small pocket pairs. He said that he doesn't like playing them multi-way. Now, I know that most of the presenters do like to play them multi-way. And they feel that the reason they like to play them multi-way because if you hit your set, you want someone to hit something where you can get paid, and that's generally the theory behind playing pocket pairs in that way. He says, however, that he doesn't like to. First of all, let me ask you, John, how do you like to play these pocket pairs?
Completely variably, depending on position, relative chip stack, size of the blinds, and what I know about the other players at the table. I'm quite happy to limp in early position, probably throw it away to a re-raise, probably call a small re-raise, which may well be a mistake, or throw them away altogether, as we saw on a table earlier when, I can't remember who it was now, but somebody laid down a pair of fives in mid-position. Yeah. Perhaps he's got a read on the table and he knows that there are some aggressive raisers waiting to play after him. Therefore, it's a perfectly viable play to throw it away pre-flop at a table of 8. Yeah. Some people think you should raise big from any position with a small pocket pair to thin the field out and increase your chances of winning. I don't happen to agree with that. It's some people's theory, however, and all these theories have to be taken together, experimented with, and people need to do what tends to end up as best for them in the long run, experiment a little bit. Does that answer your question? Yeah,
I mean, the thing to remember is, I'll say, Rob, is that, there are very different situations. Playing them, for example, if I'm playing them in a cash game, then I'll tend to, depending on the type of cash game that I'm playing, but if I'm in early position, I'll tend to limp in and I'll try and flop a set. By the same token, if I'm sort of round the back, from mid-position onwards, and I'll try and re-raise, I'll try and bet out with them, for the simple reason that I'm up against fewer players and I'm trying to build a pot because I know it's failed to build up to this point. So that's the other thing. There are lots of different ways of playing them, and I can understand your point of view as well. The one thing I will say is, if you are playing them in a tournament, you want to play them a little differently too. I think after a while, once you're in a tournament situation, once again, you may want to play them a little more aggressively than you would want in a cash game. But once again, it does depend on what stage of the tournament we're talking about. He goes on to say, if you play the set fast, this is his explanation for it, if you play the set fast and you tend not to get called by the draws, and if a king or ace is on the flop, the player with it usually has a weak kicker and is reluctant to call a big bet. Now, I'm not too sure about that. I think if there's been a little bit of action pre-flop, there's a good chance that he's got ace-jack, ace-10. And, if a player is playing ace-jack or ace-10, guess what they want to hit? They want to hit an ace. So, unless you go really overboard with your betting, they're going to keep on calling you with a pair that's got very little chance of him beating your set at the end of the day. So I'm not too sure I agree with that one. Someone who plays ace-9, ace-10, ace-jack, I think they are going to call you, and I think they will pay you off. But he goes on to say, I find small pocket pairs to be troublesome as premium pairs in unraised multi-way pots. You either win a small pot or lose a big one. I think I must tell you, I think it's completely the other way around. I think you either win a big pot or lose a little one in an unraised pot, because if you're just calling with it, then it's very simple. At the end of the day, you call with it, it costs you a couple of bucks, whatever levels you're playing at. If you don't hit your set with a pair of fours, guess what? You're going to have 3 overcards too, you're going to throw it away. So it's fairly simple. However, if you hit your set, you're hoping someone's got the top pair and they now pay you off. So, that's the thing with those. Out of position, I'll limp in, but I'm desperately wanting to see a raise from someone, which I will call without hesitation. I am at my happiest if I can get heads up with pocket pairs. I agree with you to a point. If you're heads up against a pocket pair, you've got more chance of winning. But that goes against, that's by the same token, that's the truth of any hand, isn't it? If you come up against any hand in heads up, you've got more chance of winning. There's less people in the pot to beat you. I'm at the happiest if I can get heads up. Why? Well, who says the razor has an overpair? If the flop is ragged, most of the time I'll be in front. If it hits big, then I just dump the pair. That's true. The only problem is you're never ever going to win a big pot like that unless the guy has a big hand as well. And you're just relying on one person having a hand against your set, which is going to be generally the biggest hand out there. So that's the only thing. Whereas if you're multi-weight, one of those four might pick up top pair. They might even pick up two pair. And now you get paid by that guy as well. He goes on to say, I told you it was a long email. He goes on to say that, but here is the payoff in a raised pot. If it comes Ace, King, X, and X makes me the set, then the razor is in a whole world of pain. And if I'm out of position, I overbet the pot and wait for the re-raise. Yes, but once again, as I said, you're really waiting for one person to hit a big hand against you and you to hit your set. You know, that chance is not going to happen that often, unfortunately. It will happen, but it won't happen as often as you'd like. It's like hoping that you've got a pair of aces and someone has kings behind you. It will happen, but it won't happen very often. What do you think of what we've been talking about so far?
It's
John,
fine. I love this kind of discussion, actually, and Rob's extremely well thought out email, giving his own opinions, giving us a lot of conflicting theories. His ideas rather differ from yours, Mark. I'm not saying who is right. I just love to hear the conflicting theories. And I think Rob is obviously a perfectly competent player.
The other thing to bear in mind, John, as well, is that if Rob is playing in a situation whereby he's playing against opponents who are giving him a lot of action, i.e. they're betting a lot pre-flop, the action is all pre-flop, then I can understand why he wants to play, pairs this way. That makes sense in that situation. However, if you're on a normal type of table, or in fact a passive table, then I think it'll be better playing it the other way. But anyway, we'll go on. Let's have a quick look what he goes on to say. I'll miss sort of his next bit and just go on. If I miss my set on the flop when I'm out of position, I just check. If my opponent bets, I will often call if I sense any weakness in his bet. Yeah, that's true. You've got more chance of bluffing but you're generally going to be bluffing with, you're going to be bluffing with the best hand. That's the only thing I'd say with that. If you are bluffing, the guy's going to call you, he's got a better hand than you. Most players who hit top pair on the flop with a good kicker, who have an overpair will usually make a pot size bet or very close to it, especially if there are any draws out there. Any raiser, for example, bets $5, $10 into a $20 pot with a ragged flop, usually has two overcards. I won't re-raise, but I'll call that bet. Okay, well, if the turn is another rag and he checks, I'll bet pot sized. If he bets when the rag falls on the turn, I'll re-raise. I make these plays like this because over time I find myself to be mostly correct when doing so. I make the raise on the turn when not the flop. Why? There is only calling when one card to come, which means less chance of being outdrawn. I think we're going to leave it at that point because it carries on, and then perhaps we'll come back to the rest of it a little later on. Otherwise, we won't have a chance for anyone else's emails, and we won't have a chance to see John because I would have read this thing and I'll say, and we'll see you tomorrow night for Poker Night Live. But anyway, we're going to see how John plays. But before that, let me remind you other viewers, if you want to get in contact with us, how to do that. We're going to give you a text number first. Poker. Text the word poker to 84222. There it is on your screen. Put your message in after that and also put in your name so we can say hello. You can also email poker@pokernightllive.co.uk. Much the same format, just put your name and details in there and me and John will read it out and answer your questions. But no extra long ones because we're running out of time now, I'm afraid, guys. Anyway, let's see how John does. That was a well thought out email, wasn't it? Gosh, what an email he's given us there.
Yep. And a very interesting discussion subject, and something we get a lot here on Poker Night Live. I thought about playing this, the first hand of the day. I chose to lay down King 6 up against Ace 8. Quite happy with that lay down, despite my position. Tempting to play it, but...
Yeah, 10% of your stack though, practically, or 8% of your stack. Yeah. Fairly chunky amount.
Yeah. Anyway, laid it down. I didn't have a great deal to think about here. With 9-6 off, I've probably clicked the fold button already by this stage. This tournament starts off very calmly, Mark, and if our viewers will stick with us, this turns into a really wild tournament with some incredibly interesting hands coming up.
Okay, look forward to that.
But it has a typically slow start to one of these sit-and-goes where everyone's a bit tentative, trying to gain information about opponents. Obviously not wanting to be the first to get busted out. Everybody playing fairly tight.
Yep, it's always the way, isn't it?
I would say tighter than most sit-and-go tournaments. I think when they're on a televised table with a presenter, they want to survive, just as the presenter does, incidentally.
Yeah, very important point.
And they want as much play for their money as they can. I think I must have been considering playing this hand, but chose not to. I wouldn't have been in such bad shape with all those rags around. Interesting raise from the 8-9, just to steal a 20 blind. I've never found this a good strategy, Mark, trying to steal blinds early on when they're very small.
No, I don't see the point of it, personally.
You just get yourself a table image as a stealer, and then when you need to steal them later on, it then becomes that much more difficult, and you're more likely to get called when you don't want to be called.
Yeah. And the problem here is that you're not really seeing that many hands before the end of the tournament that you can look like you're a loose player and then get paid off with your big hands. Unfortunately, the tournament's over by the time you get any big hands. So it's not, you can't really create that kind of table image in your favour.
Mm-hmm. And here I pick up the best hand I'd had so far, and I put in a fairly chunky raise here. Oh, excuse me, it was only a raise of 40. Must be because the blinds are very small. There wasn't a great deal to win in the pot. I get a call from 4-4 and a call from 9-9. And I don't like this flop, but I'm going to come out betting it. Mark, what do you think of this? You bet this flop?
At this stage, yeah, I would definitely bet this flop. Yeah, okay. I would like to put in what the bot was. Yeah, I think that's a fair bet. And you've now got your question. You've got your question answered.
So I found out where I am. I think about this for a moment. I bet my hand.
And you bet it strongly as well.
Yeah.
So if someone comes over the top, you know that they're betting with strength as well.
And I lay it down.
Very good laydown.
I'm very happy with that laydown.
Yeah. Very nice indeed. You had a bit of fortune there, John, in as much that there was an overcard to your pair as well. Mm-hmm. You probably didn't think he had fours, but you were probably worried about the king.
I can't possibly read him for trip fours. Obviously, no. I'm reading him for a king or king queen or a
ace king or something.
Maybe even ace king.
Yeah.
And
so, no, good laydown by you.
I laid it down. Excuse me.
So an interesting play here from Kev Still. He wants to steal your blind, John. I think he wants to. He actually really does want to beat the presenter. Mm-hmm. And Stanton said, "But that's my hand. I'm going to steal it from him because I've actually got the genuine hand," and he does. Mm-hmm. Ah, here we are. Small pocket pairs. Just what the doctor ordered.
But small pocket pair on the small blind. And if I remember correctly, everybody folds around to me here. Surprising the Queen Jack didn't play this. He must have felt he was slightly out of position to play Queen Jack.
Yeah, that is a strange play. I think he just also the fact that he just won a pot maybe by making feel good factor.
If I remember correctly, I put in a raise here and I just steal the blind. I think I just put a small raise in, steal the blind. It's one example of playing a small pocket pair. I got two overcards to lay it down. Bit of a nothing hand really, because there's nothing in the pot to win.
Yeah.
I put in a big raise. Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't such a small raise.
No, 5 times the blind. That might have been a misclick actually.
Okay.
I think that was meant to be a smaller raise than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a bet of 60 or though would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack 3. Take it you're not interested in this hand.
Well, everyone's folded and I've got position. I can't remember. I think I just limped in for 20. That's right.
Okay. Trying to perhaps get position and take it down on the flop, maybe,
Yeah,
with nothing.
I've got 2 suited cards with a small honour. And then once I've called, I think I have to call the re-raise.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not a re-raise, the raise.
The raise, yeah.
I missed the flop by a mile.
He checks, does he?
He comes out betting.
Oh, does he? Okay,
on
that's
his, on
good
his
play.
gut shot straight draw.
Yeah, good continuation bet.
And I just throw it away.
Yeah, and good play by Merlin there.
But
Having
I
said
was
all of that.
only calling because I had the dealer button.
Yeah.
And everyone has folded in front of me.
No, well, once you've called the initial bet, you have to call the raise. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't fold for the 20. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Like you said, you had position, so. Well, top pair for Merlin. He probably wants to protect his hand somewhat. And he puts out a pot-sized bet. And Hoyk has got 3 overcards. He thinks, well, if you come out betting, you're the first one to act, so I guess you must have a 10 or an 8 in your hand. Do I want to take a chance and see if I can get you off this? Probably not. Probably going to cost me too many chips to find out that I can't get you off it.
Mm-hmm. I think I was beginning to feel at this stage I hadn't had a great deal to work with. I've had my pair of 10s cracked by a pair of 4s. That could have cost me a great deal more. All I've managed to do with my pair of 5s is steal a 20 blind by this stage. Again, more rags.
And the famous Jack 3.
The famous Jack 3.
The unsuited version.
The unsuited out of position, slightly different from suited on the button.
Absolutely, yes. No, it's practically any 2 cards are good to play on the button. You've got the aptitude for it. Oh, an interesting dilemma for you here.
Well, I'm still raising on high card strength here. I don't know, of course, that I'm up against a bunch of rags. I've put in a 4 times the blind raise. Quite happy just to take the blinds down here. What you really don't want with ace-jack is a re-raise.
No, absolutely.
I would probably, even with my chip stack, I would probably throw that away to a re-raise.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think so. I think that'd be the wise move.
Quite happy to take 60 from the blinds.
So tell me, John, you've been playing backgammon and poker, and whilst I know we don't want to go through too much on backgammon, but what I want to ask you is, which do you enjoy the most these days?
I'm extremely partial to internet poker, Mark. But I would say that, I suppose, being here. I'm enjoying it more and more, particularly sit and goes. I enjoy the shifting sands of a sit and go. I know you're a little bit bored with them.
No, I enjoy that too. I just think that sometimes it can be a little bit too fast. I mean, this is a very fast tournament, and even when you play live sit and goes, generally they're quite fast.
Mm-hmm. But I enjoy the differing equities as you go through the tournament. You know, I tend to play 10-man tables rather than 8-man tables. And, you know, you've got very much a beginning, a middle, and an end. With the...
It's like a story, isn't it?
Like a story, and the philosophy of the game is constantly changing. I think I was allowed to limp in here with Queen 3 on the small blind. I didn't catch any of it.
No, and this and Hoyk doesn't want to be playing against 3 players now. Gan has... a bit of a hand here. He's got 2 overcards and a flush draw, but there is a paired board there, so it's not as good. Well, he threw away a king-high flush draw. And I don't really blame him to a degree, because the board is paired, for one thing, so he could be drawing dead already. And plus...
You call that with the king-8 suited?
Would I? For 160? Tough. I think I probably would for 160. I'll peel off 1 more card.
Especially against a healthy stack where you've got tremendous implied odds.
Yeah.
Trouble is, do you call the second bet if a diamond doesn't come?
No, I don't. No, not when I've got this amount of chips. I don't. It's just costing me too much after that.
Jack 10. I think I put in a raise here. I can't really see any point in limping, so I put in a 3 times the blind raise. And once again,
that's fair.
I'm quite happy to take the blinds down with that.
Yeah, no, that's an okay play.
I don't really want to see a flop with that hand.
Stand 10 suited. So he doesn't want to play that. I don't blame him. He's out of position. Nick will play this though, and he's come up with 3 times a big blind raise himself. Merlin can't really call him unless he feels it's still, and it's a bit too early to steal from there. And Kev still relinquishes his hand. So,
but to answer your earlier question more fully, Mark, I think what I like most is a social game of poker amongst friends with a few drinks and a nice ambiance where everyone is
home games are a lot of fun.
Interesting and charming, and we know that all over the country now people are having poker parties instead of dinner parties.
Yeah. Or
they're having a fork supper on the side whilst they play poker.
Yeah. Yeah, it's changed the dynamics of
and
the social scene.
Now that we've got this this format of sit and go tournaments, which you can play at home, much the same format, it's limited liability poker where nobody is going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And you get all this social interaction, as well as the opportunity to experiment with your poker skills.
Uh-huh.
Perhaps we should make that a discussion topic one evening. Tell us your parlour poker stories. But for me, it's one of the most enjoyable pastimes.
Yeah, it's certainly good. It's good fun, I must admit. So I first started playing, although it didn't lead me on to look his race. Well done, Hoik. I like that. Well done.
I think that's a...
Oh, I don't like that though. And well,
psychic re-raise from...
Yeah, well, he read it for a still.
Jack Alley, is that?
Yeah. He read it for a still, and Hoyt didn't get away with that one. He's trying to see whether he can call to try and win with a 7-8. Yeah, but he got found out on that one. Unlucky Hoyt. Man after my own heart.
But an incredibly brave bet from Jack Alley, because this might have been a genuine raise with Ace-Jack, Ace-Queen or Ace-King.
Well, he's given some information to Hoyt now, isn't he? He's given some information to say, OK, well, next time you do have a hand, I'll pay you. If I think you're at it again, I'll do the same again, probably.
I think he's also given Hoyt the information, don't steal my blind. And I think Hoyt is going to be a little more circumspect in trying to steal now. This move from Jack Alley is also a good move to make early on in the tournament to deter people sitting below you from stealing your blinds later on.
Yeah, it can be dangerous though, because Ace-10 is not a particularly strong hand.
No.
And if he's got a pocket pair, he might decide to call him, because he might reread him for thinking that that you think that I'm stealing, but I'm not, and I've actually got a hand. So I'll play my pocket fives against you because I think I'm probably ahead.
Okay, now I chose to call this twice the blind raise.
So it's a minimum raise.
He checked. It's a minimum raise. I called it with 10-8. He then checks, which I consider weak, and so I decided to put a bet in, not having hit it and not really having any outs.
Yeah. So you got good play.
And he lays it down.
Yeah, very nice.
Again, capitalising on perceived weakness, which of course in itself can be dangerous, because of course people do try to feign weakness when they're extremely strong. Yeah,
absolutely. But you got away with it, and you only put in 160, so it wouldn't have left you desperate at that point.
No.
So a nice play there by John.
I'm slowly clawing my way back up to the 1,000 I started with. I've had to make 2 blind steals and 1 bluff to get back what I lost on getting my 10-10 cracked by the 4-4.
Yeah.
Or the trip 4s, as it turned out to be. Well, obviously, as it turned out to be.
Well, King 2 for Gan. How's he going to play this? A limp, fold, or a raise? He's thinking about it. He knows that if he puts a raise in, he might be committed, which is probably why he didn't put that bet in.
I get the 9s.
Ah, very nice indeed. Pocket 9s for you. Nick doesn't want to play his King 10. Surprising quick fold there by Nick.
Yes, this is a very interesting hand, this one, Mark. Now, keep an eye on this one, because I put in a pre-flop raise.
Okay, so you made it 240.
3 times the blind.
Yeah.
Jack 10 calls me.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that he did call you, to be honest with you. I think he's just trying to play the presenter.
But he's caught a jack. Now, should I continue here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to represent that ace.
I decided not to.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's worked out for you, okay?
I get the 9. He then decided that I haven't got an ace because I didn't bet.
Yeah.
Quite correctly. He bets 160, and I think I let him have it now.
Ah, you didn't want to slow play him anymore. It was a bit scary, that board, I guess.
With the diamonds and the clubs.
And straightening
and the straight
possibilities.
draws. So I'll leave myself...
An 8 will kill you in this hand.
I'll leave myself 100.
Yeah, I think that's a fair bet. You've got lots of scary there.
And he goes all in. I'm not laying it down. Nothing card comes.
Well, Kev, he really wanted to beat the presenter who was after you, wasn't he, from the beginning?
He did, but...
With that Queen 3 or whatever it was he tried to raise you with earlier?
Yeah.
Kev, you naughty boy, you trying to steal Clarky's blinds.
Well, I was very lucky that I hit trips on the turn.
Yeah.
And if he'd come out betting in the first place with middle pair, I might well have laid it down. I've got 2 overcards on the board.
I think he was hoping that he was hoping for a check raise there, to be honest with you, John.
You think so?
Yeah, looking the way he's played it, I think he was going for a check raise.
I think he's scared of me holding an ace because I've raised pre-flop.
Well, I think it depends. If you made a big bet, then he probably wouldn't check raise. But I think if you were to make a half pot size bet or something like that, he'd probably go for the check raise.
But Kev survives. He catches a queen on the river to survive. And I get ace-5 suited. And I just limp in with this.
Okay, hoping to catch a flush. I assume that no one's going to let you do that. One of these 2 guys isn't.
He calls.
Raise. And he probably wants to isolate, so I guess he'll minimum re-raise.
But there's an ace-ace here, fortunately for me, because I would have called Kev Steele's raise. Now I'm going to fold it, obviously. Stanters is telling me that he wants Kev all to himself, and I'm quite happy to get out of the way.
Yeah. Oh, you've picked up an inside straight draw. A 2 will make you a straight, John, if you had it. Yeah. Oh, you would have won the hand.
I'd have had trip 5, so
yeah.
that happens. But
why didn't you call, John?
Well, I wouldn't have been able to take the next raise from Stanters anyway,
yeah.
so I wouldn't have won the hand even if I had called.
No, you couldn't have withstood that.
Anyway, Kev has departed, and I think I make a very loose play here. I think I put in a raise here. Now, this is because I have a big stack and I want to start bullying. I think this is a very loose play from me.
It is, yeah. It is certainly your early position. King Jack.
But I get re-raised by ace-7 suited, and then I decide to come to my senses and throw it away. Actually, it wouldn't have been such a bad call, but...
Well, I think in that situation, I wouldn't have minded. It wouldn't have been a bad play to call and then bet out on the flop wherever comes.
Okay, I'm throwing it away because he's short-stacked.
You know it's going to cost you a lot there.
And I haven't got... I mean, I know he's going to have a hair trigger putting that in.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the implied odds, I don't think, to call this because he's short-stacked.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair comment, absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with 4 because you know that you're playing this hand for 480 more.
Yeah, here obviously I've got a problem because I've bet 4 times the big blind from first position with 10-10. I've walked into Jack-Jack and Ace-Jack. I think the Ace-Jack lays it down now.
Yeah.
And then I have to call this re-raise.
You do. You're committed to this hand. Yeah.
And fortunately, Gan didn't have enough chips to bust me out. So from chip leader 1 minute to almost bottom stack, or more or less joint bottom stack the next minute.
Yeah. No, you've got a bit more than Nick, haven't you? So.
Yeah, but such are the shifting sands of sit-and-go tournaments.
So Hoik has the hand this time.
Hoik picks up a lovely starting hand.
Yeah, 480. No, he's just decided to make 644.
And I just can't find a call with 9-7.
No, you can't call that for majority of your stack.
So I throw my big blind away, and I'm starting to feel very uncomfortable at this stage, having lost 1,250 chips in 2 or 3 hands.
Yep. Well, blinds are starting to creep up now. They're 81.60. Means there's 240 in that pot before we even start.
And I think Nick folds, and I think I raise here. Quite happy just to pick up the 160 big blind. And I'm not going to put in a tinier baby raise and give him the odds to call. I just want to take it there and then.
Well, Nick has...
Now, I was going to call this hand. That raise deters me from calling.
Yeah, no, you can't call now that he's raised. You don't know what's going to go on behind you.
But I probably would have been raising myself had that raise not come in, and I would have been in some difficulty against King-Queen suited, with Jack-10 suited. 2 fresh cards and a fresh suit, but even so, and position. But had he not raised, that might have been the hand to bust me out, in fact.
Or double you up.
Or double me up, yeah.
So we've got a couple of 9-6s out there. The Queens will like his hand though, but unfortunately won't like the action he's going to get, because I don't think he's going to get any. No one's got a hand here to take him on. No, no one's going to call that.
No, he's
so
just
I assume he's going to win the blinds of 240. I think it would have been folded round to Hoek even if there was no bet. Not much of a semblance of hands here.
Again, nothing really to think about there. Notice Gan folded ace-8 there.
Yeah, yeah, very tight.
King-10 raises into Queen-10.
So he's being asked to put in another 320. Well, disciplined fold there by Stantas.
Tight table, Mark.
Very tight, because Hoyt could be doing that with anything from the big blind. Oh, look at the hand he's picked up, Hoyt. Look at the hand. 7-8 suited.
7-8 suited, marvellous.
The problem is there's not many clubs left, is there, in the pack?
No,
there's
well,
8 of them out there, and I didn't see what the other two players had.
Obviously, he gets off it now.
Yeah, that's a good night from the 7-8.
And the blinds.
It's the second time he's had to throw 7-8 away, but that's okay.
Well, at least this time he hadn't raised with it pre-flop.
Yeah, just limped.
Not even limped, he didn't put anything into the pot, he was on the button. So, King 4, first position, not interested. Five, has no idea he's up against ace-ace here.
Yeah, no, he's going to have to raise. He does. And he's going to get popped back, no doubt, because he hasn't got that many more chips anyway. He's going to push the rest of his stack in.
He's going to put it all in and get called, presumably.
I'd imagine so, for 320 more. Yeah, and he needs to start getting some... no, spades is no good. So he's drawing really thin now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes Nick the flush. Only 1-5 left in that pack that could help him. And that was the 5 of hearts. 5 of spades, of course, would have made him a flush, so that's no good. Those jacks have appeared again.
Yeah, and then Howitt goes all in. And he's up against the jacks.
Yeah, that's why it's not such a good play.
I was rather hoping to play King-8 suited. And...
Hoyt's a bit of a dilemma, isn't he? Well, he decides to...
takes the decision out of my hands.
The jacks. Well, needs a 3 to get out of this one, doesn't he? Hoyt. And he doesn't get it.
And that's the end of Hoyt. And then there were 6.
Then there were 6. Time to have a quick look at some stats on this tournament, John. We'll keep it running in the background there. And we can see that Gan has been folding the most, been folding 89%, so he's only played 11. And where's Mr. Clarkson? Oh, loosey-goosey. Loosey-goosey Clarkson. So there he goes, and he's been playing 30%. with hands, but you had a few hands, nice hands there. So
these stats don't always tell the whole story. Sometimes, you know, you're able to limp in on the blind, or you don't even have to do anything. You just.
Oh look, I think you got a pair of aces there, John.
Yes, I did.
Just in time. Oh, and look, you've the guys
we
hit
missed
top
this,
pair.
but I slow played this incidentally.
You just limped.
I just limped.
Oh, good.
And I think I've decided that's enough limping at this stage. And I re-raise him. I then hit trips.
Yeah, that's the end. He needs a 9 only.
And I've doubled through, largely because I didn't blast them out the pot.
Yeah.
On the dealer button.
And it's interesting because this is a hand that Puck was talking about earlier, and I said he should have limped with the aces, and he said, why should I have limped? And this is basically the reason, because if Johnny doesn't limp there, he probably doesn't get hardly anything off Gan. So he's given the other guy a chance to catch up, forcing him to play his hand, whereas, you know, a lot of these players won't normally play their big blind their type of hands because they're just rubbish. But they will play it after the flop if they've hit.
Anyway, from almost bottom stack, I'm starting to feel a little more comfortable here.
Yeah.
With a little bit more mud in my wheelbarrow, and lo and behold,
again,
ace comes along again.
Do you know, I've played 4 presenters tournaments. I don't think I've had it once.
No.
Or kings.
I think I just limped again with this.
Ah, very sneaky.
He goes all in.
And you're not going to get any callers in. Now he might call.
No. But notice if I'd raised, the king 10 may well have thrown it away.
Yeah.
But he's perceived weakness from my flat call, and obviously I've got an easy call here, and cruise to an easy win, and then there were 5.
Yeah, well that's nice to flop for you, wasn't it? 5, 6, 2.
Yeah,
nothing scary there.
And now I'm feeling a little more comfortable again. I've almost got a joint chip lead with Nick, although he's got his blind invested in this hand.
Yeah, well, he's not going to throw this away, is he?
No, he's not.
Well, still got a chance if a queen or 6 appears. Well, it doesn't, so...
or an 8, for that matter.
No, 8 wouldn't have made him the straight. It's 1 short.
Yeah,
There's no jack.
No, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There was no 6.
No, he's got a 6 in his hand.
The 6,
7,
quite right.
9, 10 on the board.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the queen's side. Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah, the 6 would have made him a straight. Absolutely, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah.
And I think Nick folds his blind to me. I gratefully scoop it up with 10-5 off.
Yeah, very nice when that happens. Where are you getting these hands from?
I know. I've never seen so many pocket pairs. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Ace 8 puts in a raise, and I let him have it here.
When you say let him have it, you mean in terms of raising him, as opposed to let him take your blinds?
Yeah, I let it go. And he thinks a long time about this, and I can't see how he can call even if he had ace jack, ace queen, because of the relative chip stacks.
Yeah, and plus it's the bubble, so.
And the bubble, yeah.
And he can see Gan is about to go out.
Yeah.
So he thinks, well, you can only be doing it with a genuine hand. So good lay down by Nick. Read the situation correctly, and that was the right thing to do.
Now this was a hand I sort of regretted not playing. I thought perhaps I should have played this on the button.
Yeah, and the reason you can play it, regardless of what hand you've got, even if you've got 7-2, that's a good play to play. Why? Yeah. Because Gan might not play. Well, in fact, he might not have played, because you see, this is the great thing about that situation. If you had bet in that situation, Gan can't call you because he's now thinking, hold on a sec, Jack Ali might call him, and if Jack Ali calls him, he's going to go out before me, and I'll get into the money.
Right. Well.
And now Jack Ali is thinking, well, hold on a sec, I'm not going to call him because Gan's only got 1 hand left. He's going to go out shortly. So you would have won the blinds there, definitely.
Yep.
You know, they can't call you.
Yep.
Because they're both so short stacks. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was very interesting.
I think I tightened up a little bit too much there.
Yeah. And Gan just went out anyway, so with the king 3, I think it was. So
we're down to 3, and I've got a chip lead here. I decide not to do any stealing with that rubbish. And I'm trying to remember what went wrong now.
I played with one of your backgammon buddies in Australia. Tino.
Oh, Tino Lekic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I remember them introducing him as a backgammon boy.
Oh, yes.
And he was on the, we both got to the, well, he got to the final. I think he was first one out on the final, actually. But
Right. Well, he was playing the Aussie Millions this year as well.
yeah, this was in the Aussie Millions.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
not this year, the year before.
Well, he won an event at the Aussie Millions a couple of years ago.
Did he?
I think. And if memory serves me correctly...
That was probably the same one then, but one of the earlier events maybe.
Yeah, one of the side events he won. Okay, I've got a tremendous position here.
Yeah, you got lots of chips.
4,000 chips.
You got more than half the chips in play.
I put in a huge raise here, and I get called by King 8. And watch what happens now. I'm really not expecting this call from King 8.
No.
But this is the one that hurt me, Mark, and you'll see what happens.
Oh dear.
Yeah, oh dear.
Wow, only a 9
dear.
will help you here. But, I guess it's not coming. Yeah. No. Well, that was nasty, wasn't it? It was a nasty call by Jack Alley.
Yeah.
Especially one person behind him. And very, very nasty Jack Alley.
Suddenly I'm no
He's a
longer...
bad boy, isn't he?
No longer chip leader, and I have to throw my blind to Nick.
Yeah. Well, he had a genuine hand, so...
That was the hand that hurt me. Getting called by King 8 and then him hitting trip 8. And then I'm now the bottom stack from here. I've got an ace, and I'm going to stick it all in.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. There's no point to screw around now. The 640 is coming off next of your blind otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so no, you've done the right thing.
It's just unfortunate I walked into King. I don't hit the ace. He hits a king instead.
And another one.
And another one, just to make sure.
Yeah, just to make sure, and it's goodbye. In fact, it was goodbye on the flop anyway. You only had running outs for a straight that could have saved you, but...
Still, quite happy to cash.
Yeah, yeah, so nicely played, John. So down to 2 now. Let's just see how it finishes off. Yeah, you didn't have much choice there, John. That was I think you played a pretty good game, from what I saw. One mistake was the Queen 9, I think. That was the only thing.
Yeah.
I think that was an opportunity, but that was a creative play, you know. So technically, I couldn't see anything you'd done wrong. You played everything.
I had tremendous cards, and I really feel I should have won this tournament. When I get pocket aces twice, pocket tens twice, I think I got some other pocket pairs as well.
Yeah.
I think I had above average cards.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And
look what's happened here. It's well, 2 pair aces and 8s, and that's going to be enough. And Nick is going out, and Jack Alley, who should have been out, wins it. Fine line, isn't it, between success and failure?
A very fine line.
Yeah, never mind. So look at it. What a surprise! Clark's he's top of the board there. He's played one hand less than the other boys, and 16% pre-flop raising. So you're a raising machine, and a calling machine as well, by the looks of it.
Aggressive player, but
yeah.
Still.
So let's have a look. When players fold. In fact, no, sorry, hold on. You folded the most there. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong stats. 16% pre-flop folds, 11% post-flop folds. So you're actually the opposite. So you're playing very tight aggressive, by the looks of it. Because the other one, it showed you as being quite aggressive. So I guess it's tight aggressive you're playing.
Right.
Yeah,
but very often the cards that you're dealt determine these statistics. You know, they have to be seen in the light of, you know, the type of cards that you've been getting dealt. I either got dealt, you know, very playable hands like pocket pairs, or totally unplayable hands, and that's what leads to statistics like that.
And of course, you did a couple of times you did have those aces. You slow played them.
Both times.
Yeah,
both
so
times.
that led to the stats as well.
And got paid.
Yeah,
both times.
Yeah. So sometimes you need to take those risks, don't you? It's all about risk reward, isn't it?
I don't always slow play aces. It depends again, relative chip stacks, how many people, what I know about the players.
Yeah.
But certainly on the dealer button, just up against the blinds, I'm not going to raise with ace-ace.
Especially when the blinds are high as well.
And yes, especially when the blinds are high. And on that occasion, Jack 10 limped in off the small blind, hit top pair, came out firing, got busted out.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want, isn't it?
Exactly
you want that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that tournament. It was quite an interesting one. Lots of different things happening. I'm going to read this out only because he's taken the trouble of writing this email. So I'm just going to finish off where what Rob was. On to say that if I'm in position, he'll raise with a pocket pair, especially if there's been a few limpers. He'll usually, the way he works it out is he'll raise 3 times a big blind, plus whatever the limpers already put into the pot. He'll add it all in, and that'll be his bet. Most times he'll take it down there and then. Sometimes he'll get called, and usually they'll miss the flop. Once again, I don't mind that play, I really don't. Sometimes if you feel that you can win it pre-flop without having to hit your set, then do it, I don't mind. If you feel that there's enough in the pot for you to win it at that point, then do it. Especially if you've got position, I think it's a great time to do it. Sometimes I get called, and they'll usually miss the flop. Once again, I'll take it down. If big cards come, hell, they don't know I don't have the ace or the king. After all, I did raise. If they check to me, I'll definitely put it in a big bet. And if he gets called by someone and they get lucky, and I might get lucky, I might hit my set. Okay, he goes on to say, these methods I've gone over and I've tried and tested over a long period of time, and they work for me. And that's the thing, isn't it, John? You've got to do what works for you at the end of the day.
Sure, if you find a formula that works for you, stick with it.
Yeah, there's no point listening to how, exactly how I play, or, or how Tom plays, or anyone else for that matter. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that, you'll get situations where, you play a different style, which means that you'll need to play certain situations differently according to how people have been perceiving you. So that's the important thing. He does go on to say that he doesn't think the way he plays will work against good players because they'll eventually read what he does. But yeah, I can understand your points, and hopefully I've covered a lot of those points. It was a bit too much for me to go into great detail, but thanks very much for that, Rob. That was good hearing from you. Mm-hmm. We've also got an email from... Who is this one from? It was Chris, but I'm going to do that one, Chris, afterwards. Got one from Question Mark. And Mr. Question Mark, are you ready for this one? My wife and me were playing heads up. Oh yeah, I can hear what's going on here. Playing heads up, and both of us had full houses. I had 2-2-2 king.
No, excuse me.
Sorry, my wife had 2-2-2 king, and I had 8-8-8-2-2. I think my hand wins. Am I correct? Absolutely correct. You always take the set of the hand, and that's what determines who are the winners. Regardless of, even if the other one was 2-2-2 ace-ace, you would still win, even if you had 3-3-3-2-2. So not that it could be, in fact, yeah, not even if it was 3-3-3-2-2. So
and ace-ace-ace 2-2 beats king-king-king queen-queen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always the trial that takes priority. Yeah,
always the set, always the 3 of the kind that is the best. So yes, you are right, Mr. Anonymous, whoever you may be. Okay, we've got another email from Chris, I believe. Let's have a look what Chris has to say. Okay, Chris, thanks very much for your email, Chris. This is the night of the long emails. Perhaps do you want to do this one, John?
Okay, email from Chris. Evening, guys. It's been a while since I've emailed the show. I hope you managed to read this out or respond to it, as I truly appreciate your opinion on a hand tournament situation I found myself in last night. For a bit of background information, I've been playing poker for around 3 years now. Over this time, I've managed to become a winning tournament player. I've gradually increased my bankroll over time, which has allowed me to play in the odd, bigger game. I had a particularly good week last week, winning a multi-table second in another 3 final tables. As a treat, I decided to buy into a big weekly tournament on my site. The buy-in was $300 plus 20, with a guaranteed prize pool of $70,000. Can I just add, I did see this as a treat, as I'd normally play freeze-outs up to $50 and rebuys up to $20. I'd made well beyond my expectations the previous week, so I could afford to play this and lose. I also thought the format of the tournament with increased number of starting chips and slower blinds would suit and test my game. Unfortunately, Mark, I think we're running out of time and we're going to have to come back to this email.
Yeah, okay.
It's
another quite lengthy one. Okay, well, I think it's got quite a nice story to it. So I would like to. How have you fared in the multi-table tourneys yourself, John? I know you play a lot of sit and goes. Have you played many?
I haven't got the patience for the multi-table tournaments. I'm afraid I just can't sit there for 4 or 5 hours.
So you're not a chess man, hey?
No, I just haven't got the patience for it. I'd much rather play a sit and go, beginning, middle, and an end. I know it's not going to take much more than 3/4 of an hour or an hour. A multi-table tournament, especially low-entry multi-table tournaments, you find yourself sitting there for 6 or 7 hours sometimes, and then getting bubbled 10 seats before the money or something like that. and I don't want to put that amount of time into that type of discipline.
Okay, well that's fair enough. And
I
that's,
have played a few.
Yeah, but you prefer the sit and goes. Okay, well good. We'll come back to Chris's email a little after the break, although before the break we're going to have a little phone in from that man, Tony T.K. Kendall. So let's see if Tony's on the line. Hi, are you still with us, Tony?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, good to have you back again. Now, you've been on this phone quite a while now, haven't you? It's been 3 hours. It's been a long phone call.
Some bill I'm going to have coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Don't send it here, will you, mate?
I try, it just keeps coming back.
Wanted to ask you, just talking about the Luton Festival, Tony. They've got a main event now. Luton's always known for their fantastic structures, much more than
that's right.
More so than some of the other card rooms. Tell us a little bit about what you know about the main event.
You nearly spoke out of turn there, didn't you? You nearly mentioned somewhere. The truth is, Luton do have good structures. One of the reasons is that Carmel, the lady that runs the tournament there, essentially, is very receptive to players' views. And it had been planned this week that it would be a 1 hour clock, but there would be no 75, 150 or 150, 300 level. Now the effect of that is that when you start level 4, you're playing at 200, 400. So that's quite fast. You know, you soon get yourself in trouble. So she has agreed to reintroduce the 150, 300 level.
Yeah.
And it does make a huge difference at that stage of the tournament.
Yeah.
This tournament, the Springfest at Luton, has produced some very high-class winners down the years and some tremendous competitions. They usually go on till 3, 4 in the morning. That's Sunday night, Monday morning. And this weekend's going to be no exception.
And are they... I've got a feeling that this is going to be 15,000 chips, isn't it?
That's what I'm given to understand. Yes, it'll be an absolutely terrific competition.
So it's going to be fantastic, isn't it? One of the best... I think it's probably one of the best comps this country's run.
Absolutely fabulous, and we can't wait for it.
Yeah,
but what we're talking about is genuine. We had some fun and games over the weekend. As you know, April the 1st fell last weekend, and there was some interesting stuff going off. I know that on the Hendon Mob Forum, somebody put up that American sites had frozen the accounts of every player because of government legislation, and there was mass panic for a little while when people thought they lost all their money. And on the Blonde Poker Forum, there was a gentleman that it had been announced that he'd been sponsored as a railbird. He was the world's first sponsored railbird. His name was Colchester Kev, and Blue Square went along with it and actually said that they'd sponsored this guy. And there was a mixture of indignation that a railbird should be sponsored and pleasure because he's a nice gentleman, but everybody fell for it, and quite a row ensued. It got quite hot on the forum about this.
Wow.
There were 1 or 2 plants involved who were stirring it up, and it ran to 15 or 20 pages, I believe.
Yeah, brilliant.
But
Tony,
go on, John.
Tony, any other April Fool's Day jokes you heard about?
Yes, John. They had one where it was announced that there would be a strip poker tournament in Dublin next week. And I don't know if Backgammon has live updates, John, but in poker we have these live web commentaries. Blonde Poker do them, and we have 2 updaters per event. And we got 17 applications to do the live update. And people genuinely thought it was true. It was put on the front page. Even the site fell for it because the content editor thought it was genuine and put it up as a news item.
Brilliant, Tony.
He called it poker in the buff. So, do you have that sort of thing in backgammon, John?
I don't think we've got quite the humour in backgammon that you have in poker, Tony. But
Is there money in backgammon, John?
Say it again, Tony.
Is there prize money in backgammon?
Of course, it's just the same as poker, Tony.
Really?
It's a worldwide scene, 30 internet servers.
And presumably there's side betting as well, is there?
Of course, exactly the same as poker. Same format, worldwide tournaments, international tournaments, huge entry fees.
Is that right? You were British champion some time back?
I've been ranked British #1 on and off for 5 years, Tony.
Well, making plenty of money at the game?
No comment.
Is it growing? Is it declining? Is it stable?
It's about stable, I would say, Tony.
Wow. Well, maybe you get some television coverage. You know what? Look what television has done for poker.
Yeah, well, Poker Zone has pioneered televised backgammon.
Yeah, I was watching it last week.
That's right. They reran that show, or those 4 shows, 3 times, and I believe there are plans for more.
Well, all I can say to you is if it has the same effect on backgammon as it's had on poker, stand by for the invasion, because it will boost the numbers in your game tremendously.
That's what we're hoping, Tony. Thank you for your enthusiasm.
You're welcome, John.
Well, Tony, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much for your input throughout the last 3 hours. So
Mark,
we'll be catching up with you next week sometime.
It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to locking horns with you at the weekend.
Okay, and welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles Banin and John Clark. Now, we're going to head over to a little cash... No, we're going to head over to the multi-table tourney because it must be nearing its climax there. So let's head over there and see how these boys are coming, and then we'll do some emails after that. So we've got, this is the final table, I believe. And according to the chip stacks, it looks like it is. So just to give...
We've got Del Boy there.
Yes, Del Boy is there. So we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players remaining, and a couple of the players that we were watching earlier, Blade Brown, we'd seen him, Ray Jan, who had the chip lead, if I'm not mistaken. I think even JJ Kool had the chip lead at one point. So should be an interesting final. We've got a situation where blinds are 600, 1200, so quite a nice lot of play. They've all got at least 20 times a big blind, or very close to it if they haven't. So that means that no great rush to get involved. There's no running antes in this, so lots of play for these players. And Dilboy is sitting pretty with top spot, or top banana, as one of our phone-in guys used to say.
With more than double anyone else's stack, in fact.
Yeah, and it takes one hand though, John, before that changes around. And Rajan is probably more comfortable with his pair of sixes now. In fact,
he's extremely comfortable with his pair of sixes now.
Yeah, well, I don't think that'll make much difference. The guy's either got a 10 or he hasn't. That second six on the end probably doesn't make a great deal of difference. Makes him feel a little bit more comfortable, even though it doesn't really change the dynamics of the situation. So Rajan takes that one down. And Blade Brown probably thought his ace was winning there. 2 pair and the ace. But he was up against Rajan's lower full house. Well, 9-5, 2 pair. JJ Kool wants to get rid of this now. He wants to put a decent bet in here, and that's a good bet, I think.
Yeah, brave bet with the 3 spades on the board.
Yeah, well, Brave Brown is unlikely to, at the end of the day, flopping a flush is 118 to 1. And he probably doesn't think that that's likely to happen. Well, he's thrown away the 7-8 suited there. I think I would have liked to have done something with that. At that point, he's got some chips, but by the same token, I think I would have chanced my arm a little bit there. He needs to take some chances, clearly, because he's now in 5th position. And blinds are going to come round, and, if he keeps getting lower and lower, they're going to keep picking him off. So I think you've got to try and make the most of those buttons when they do come round to you.
Del Boy lays down ace-9 to the ace-jack, almost a psychic laydown.
Yeah, that's a good laydown. Well, you see, this is what's happened now. Blaine Brown's going to make a move with this. He's going to feel pot committed with this hand. No, he doesn't. Gosh, he throws away 3 straight. Wow. I've got to say, that's actually a bad laydown. Now, we can see it's a good laydown in as much that we've got a couple of guys that have got some decent hands there, but it's a bad laydown in as much that if Blade has gone in with the mentality of laying down those kind of hands, he's going to need to find a lot of hands a lot of good hands to make it worth his while.
And Rajan makes a tremendous laydown as well.
Yeah, inside straight draw.
And
we get 2 overcards to him, so...
Yeah, and gets rewarded with the rockets, but nobody there to pay him.
No, and Blade Brown won't be playing this, so I don't blame him for that. 3-8, not a hand you want to play.
Surely he'll flat call here. No, why does he do this, Mark?
I don't know. It's just... he's seen that... well, he wouldn't have. I don't know how much he's been playing with Blade Brown, but I've seen it. Okay, well, I've seen his cards, but I'm sure after seeing him play half a dozen hands, he's not a mover and a shaker, is Blade Brown. So you know, he's not going to call you unless he's actually got anything. So you're just hoping and praying that he's got a big pair behind you, or you know, he's got a big ace. Otherwise, he just lays it down. You know, he's playing a very tight game.
Mm-hmm. You can't play a tight game when you're bottom stack with 5 players left.
No, no, I don't think so. I think because what happens, John, is the problem is you eventually get a hand, but by that point you've lost so many chips that anyone will just take a shot at you.
Mm-hmm,
and then, you know, you'll end up with some sort of 60-40 or 65-35 and go out.
And of course his M is approaching the red line now. His M is about 6 at the moment, just over 6. 1,800 of the blinds, 12,000 is chip stack.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to make a move soon.
Yeah.
Do we know when the blinds go up next?
No, we don't. Yeah, they go up every 12 minutes, I know that, but I'm not sure when this went up. So it's been on 6:12 since we've been here, so we won't be that far away.
Okay, we've got some action developing here.
Well, minimum raise, and that's a good bet there. Once he now feels that he's got to call him with for an extra 12, and he does. Unfortunately, he doesn't hit anything, and he'll put in a decent bet now, I think. I think he's going to triple this.
He's only got running 9s, hasn't he, to win this?
Yeah, yeah, he's drawing practically.
Oh, no, excuse me, 4-5 for a split pot.
Yeah. So that was overall a decent piece of play by Arden Fast. There was a little bit of risk in there, but not too much, and he's built up a nice little
Rajan
pot.
flat calls this pre-flop raise. It'll serve him right if an ace hits now.
Ugh, worse.
Worse. Running flush draw and the flush, and he probably thinks he's in reasonable shape with a queen of spades as well. And
he can't believe his luck, Del Boy, that he's got this guy betting into him.
he's now drawing dead the queens, amazingly. Oh, and he bets again, and surely Del Boy's going to let him have it now, yes.
Del Boy's probably think, well, you're now committed. Might as well stick the rest in, yeah. And it's like you said.
I think the play for Rajan pre-flop was to go over the top all in, actually, and then the ace-3 he'll throw it away.
Now, we talk about, you know, we've talked about these kind of things where you want a limp raise call, you know, and I can understand why you're calling in a small blind with aces, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why you'd want to do that with kings, that's fine. I would make the same play myself. But once you've got someone to give you some action, now you want now the pot is, there's money in that pot, which is what you're designed to do, isn't it? The whole idea of doing this kind of stuff is to build money into a pot. The guy said to you, okay, I want to put some money into this pot. You know, queens is not as strong as aces, so you know, he's in a desperate situation. He's called him, and it's all over, barring a miracle, and king is the only way out, and it doesn't come. So Rajan he's slipped up one mistake, and he's out because of it. So yeah, once there's money in that pot, you can't afford really to see a flop. It's not like aces where you can slow play it to death.
I think he was slow playing it.
Oh, he was?
I think he was.
He was, but I don't think you can slow play it in that situation.
Shocking. And the way that hand should have gone, he should have come over the top, all in against the big stack, and the big stack will probably be, in many ways, be more protective than the small stack, and he'll throw his ace-3 away.
I mean, if I was in that situation, I think I would have liked to have made it, not huge, I would have liked to slow play it to a certain degree, but not particularly large. It might have been the end result anyway the same, I don't know. But I would have liked to have put in a bet or double what he put in. So he put in 3-6. I would have liked to have made it 7-2.
Evil hand this one. Blade goes out to trip kings despite hitting an ace on the flop.
Yeah, well, there you are. This is what's happened. You know, he's waited.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a typical thing. You wait, and eventually you go out. You know, in this case, he went out to a better hand, but it could have easily have been, you know, a hand that he was, you know, a 60-40 favourite. You know, it could have easily been ace-jack against ace-10 or something, or, you know, against king-queen or something like that. So anyway, we're down to 3 players now. 3 players. Money, prize money is around 320, 240, 120 in that sort of area. Give you an idea.
Obviously, with over 100 starters, these 3 players finishing in the top 3%. Enormous number of pocket pairs we're seeing tonight, Mark.
Yeah, they do.
And Del Boy puts in a pretty loose raise of 4,800 and doesn't know he's walked into ace-ace. Is he going to call the re-raise? Surely shouldn't, and doesn't.
So down to 3.
Mark, what's the name of the player in the middle there? Is it Arden?
Arden Fast.
Arden Fast. Okay, I understand. Again, although Del Boy has a comfortable lead at this stage, we all know how this can change in one hand. Only needs either of the two players against him to double up on him, and he could even end up as bottom stack, I think. No, not quite. Action coming thick and fast.
Del Boy's got a healthy chip lead here, hasn't he, John?
He has.
2 to 1 on the nearest player.
Yes, but it can still change very quickly, Mark.
It can, yeah. One pot that Arden Fast wins, and he'll be chip leader. Or very close to it. No, he won't be chip leader, but he'll be very close to it.
No, but if Arden Fast doubled through on Del Boy, then Arden Fast would be chip leader, in fact.
No, because Del Boy will still be.
No.
Yeah.
If he took 25 off him, he'd be down to
60.
About 60, 50. Yes, yeah. You're right. You're right. Excuse me while I extract my foot from my mouth.
He did have, when he's now, it'd be pretty close, I think. 28, was that 56?
That would be spot on.
That's the thing, yeah, it's about there.
You can do it now.
So, interesting stuff developing here. We've got JJ Kool-Aid with the pair of 10s. Del Boy with the king 8s. Oh, he's put a flush draw and an overpair. A lot of money going in this pot, John, I think. Now, JJ Kool-Aid should play this fairly... Oh dear, these flushes are coming through, aren't they? Gosh.
Yes.
Poor old JJ. He probably thinks he's winning
thinks
here.
He's got a backup with the 10 of spades, but doesn't realise that even when the spade comes, he's going to lose.
Yeah.
And they're down to 2.
No, Del Boy's hit a couple of flushes there, and there's no outs there for the other guys. The other guys have hit over pairs each time.
But Del Boy still had to have the courage to call a big bet on a draw, quite correctly. And he got rewarded for the courage for calling that.
Well, he had the chips, didn't he? He's now got 100 times a big blind, so he's, he's in a huge position now. And the other guy's only got 20 times a big blind, so he's in a massive position. Oh, just gets better and better, doesn't it?
Gets better, although the 6 of hearts may save Arden Fast.
Well, possibly. I don't think he's going to be that enamoured with it. He's got only a 6 high flush if he does hit, and he's making him pay. He says, I've got the best hand.
He may as well stick it all in now. No. Die with your boots on, Arden Fast.
Yeah, I don't know about that, John. I'm not sure.
Die with your boots on. Where are you going with 18,000 against 132? Come on.
I don't think he could afford to do that.
You don't think so?
No, not with a 6 high flush. If he had a queen high flush, that's different, I think.
A lot of money in the pot.
Yeah, but he doesn't know his 6 high flush is any good. He might be drawing dead.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
The other guy might have a 7 high flush and that'd be the end of it. I think you're right. If you can see the cards, then definitely, take a chance. You need to take a risk at some point. But I think that was just asking a bit too much.
I saw him as pot committed, but there you go. Perhaps not.
Yeah, well, he's still got 10 times the big blind. So I think whilst he's still a huge underdog, obviously, I still think he's got a little bit of play. But I don't think he can afford to keep throwing away these kind of hands. I think he's got to put pressure on Del Boy. Oh, he's only going to do it here, isn't he? Del Boy's going to call. Oh, he's raised. Now the problem here.
He doesn't know that he's not dominated when he
threw
it away.
I'll tell you what the problem is that I don't mind a fold down. I'll tell you why. Because even if you know you're up against King Queen, for the simple reason he knows that he can't get Del Boy off this hand anymore. And that's the problem. Arden Fast wants to play in a situation where he knows he can get him off the hand. But he has to bet Arden Fast. When you're first to act, you've got to act. That's the problem. And he's not. He's just folding, or he's got to do it with anything. And the other guy's folded this time anyway. So that's the situation. Let's have a look. What happens here? Well, if he raises here, he won't. Well, he's done it anyway.
All of it, yeah, correct.
Yeah, he can't call.
Yeah.
Did he? But Del Boy actually flat called there, did he? Because he's actually on... Oh, no.
No.
So it's the other way around here, isn't it?
Around,
Yeah. I keep forgetting it's the other way around. Big blind is the...
he's limped with 10-8. He's re-raised minimum raise.
Well, it's all going to go in here, isn't it? For Arden Fast anyway. And Del Boy might think he's can get him off the hand. Yeah, and Arden Fast's got... He's too right. He's believing that he's got the winning hand, and regardless of what the flop is, regardless of what came out there.
Okay, well, he's clawing his way back slowly. Once again, I think this is a...
Well, he's got to push. He can't...
Well played,
it.
well played,
yeah.
well played.
He's got to be pushing, he's got to be pushing. The only thing I'd say is just stick it all in. I don't know why he's... I don't want to give the guy an opportunity to re-raise you, to think that he might get you off the hand. So take that option away from him, that's the only thing I'd say. But yeah, he's in a situation where he needs to try and get the other guy to, you know, but he's got to be the initiator. So... See, I don't like this bet of 4,000 personally. See, the other guy. You see, this is the problem. The other guy, it gives the guy the option of re-raising and thinking he can get off the hand. It's worked out okay for him because, yeah, but it could easily have been disaster because he gave him the option of. But it's worked out okay for him in that case. He's doubled through. He had a dominated king, and he's back in the running now. Now, if he wins the next hand, if he doubles up, he's chip leader.
That's right. That's right.
So
tremendous recovery.
Yeah,
doesn't want to get involved with rags. He can afford to throw his blind away now.
Yeah, I think that was going to be an inevitable hand for that one, Del Boy, anyway, because he hit top pair as well, didn't he? Well, we've got Queen 6 versus King 9. Del Boy is saying that I've got the best hand, or I think I can put you off it. And Arden Fast is saying, no, I've got the best hand.
Now Del Boy's backed off. Yeah.
And they've both got going to be scared by that fourth club coming on the board. And well, Del Boy isn't. He's saying, you know what? I'm pretending I've got a club in my hand and I can take you off it. Good bet there by Del Boy. He's only risking 6,000, which is small to him but big to Arden Fast, and that was a trick. Well done, Del Boy. You read a good situation there. Good little steal there, reading the situation and saying, okay, it's only 6 to me, but I know it's a big amount to you. Difference to tournament play, of course, in a cash game that would make very little difference, but in tournaments, this is the kind of thing you have to think of. Well, Arden Fast is hanging in there. He's still on around 40,000, still not out of it. Blinds means that there's plenty of play here, John, doesn't it? He's got 25 times a big blind or thereabouts, which means that he's not going to be under any real pressure. But wow, that is a... And what a great piece of play there by Arden Fast. He read that well, didn't he? And Del Boy might be panicking a little bit. You can see him crawling back up and crawling back up. He might start to panic and lose his chip lead if he's not careful. Well, inside straight draw for Arden Fast. How does he feel about it? He feels that he can bet this. Oh, look, he's hit it.
He's hit it. And then he blasts the man out of the pot. Why does he do this?
Yeah, that was crazy, wasn't it?
Why does he do this?
Yeah, missed opportunity there, isn't it? Missed opportunity. He could have suckered another bet out of Del Boy, I think. And he was all emotional there, I think.
I think so.
He got all excited that he's hit his straight. And he didn't slow play it. Well,
interesting hand developing here.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to call. No, he won't.
No, he's not.
No, that's sensible there. He's got to a nice big chip lead. Well, not chip lead. He's got built up his chips nicely. Why does he want to risk it on ace 9? You know, the guy could be dominating him with ace king or ace queen, and he's at it. So I think that's a sensible play. Well, Arden Fast has calmed down a little bit, and I think Del Boy has a little bit too. Let's see. Got a feeling they're going to start playing a few more flops and trying to outplay each other on the flop rather than making these big bets pre-flop, but we'll see. Usually what happens when chips start to get a bit closer to similarity.
Would you say this was your speciality, Mark? Heads-up play?
I certainly prefer it.
Like this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've got enough to play with as well. Mm-hmm. So I like the situation I like to be in the situation. I don't really like it when you've got, crapshoot, because at the end of the day there's no real edge. It's just a bit of luck.
They must have learnt a lot about each other along the way. They've obviously been on the final table together. They may have been on tables together earlier in the tournament as well.
Yeah, but a lot of players change when it's heads up. So they'll play a different titles, a very, very different game.
That's a very interesting point.
And, for example, you won't see me playing the same way heads up as I do, as I do in a full table. Of course not.
He called and called a king, Mark.
Yeah. No, Odds Fast is going to continue betting this, and he's going to. And Del Boy is playing as well. He's just going to see if he can sucker another bet out of him. He's not convinced that he's winning, Del Boy. So, but will he raise? He does. Well, he's convinced. He's convinced he's winning. He's hoping. I think he believes that Arden might have an 8, and that's what he was betting. And now he's going to try and make it look like an overbet bluff. And of course we can see Arden Fast actually didn't have an 8, he had nothing. So right move by Del Boy, I think. Just slightly wrong read, but it was impossible to read him for what he had, so I don't think he did anything wrong there. Arden Fast.
What do you think about this consistent double the big blind raise, Mark?
I think it has its moments. I'm not particularly mad over it, but I think there are moments when you can do it. I play a very unusual heads-up game anyway, and this is most people like to just bet their hands in terms of pre-flop, whereas I play a very trappy type of game.
He's varying it a bit now. This time he bet more than 3 times the big blind.
Yeah, he's probably worried about getting a call there, I think, with the 7s, and he doesn't know what to do with his hand anymore, apart from take a chance that he hasn't hit. So this is an interesting heads-up battle here. We've seen Arden Fast make up a bit of ground from being a severe underdog, but he's still quite a long way behind. And he's put out a nice bet here, and Del Boy, well, good fold. Didn't believe his ace was any good. And good play there by Arden Fast too. He bet the middle pair, and that was the right thing to do. Well, these guys are playing good games. Del Boy's one under pressure though, because he's the one that's with the chip lead, and he's the one that...
flat call with ace queen and catches top pair, and Del Boy may well think he's ahead here, having called a piece of it, and he trap checks.
Yeah. And that's a good play, and that's the kind of game that I like to play. And
he just flat calls, and then comes out with a tiny raise.
Well, he won't like that 7 too much. Arden Fast. No, but he does get paid off. He puts a value bet in at the end and gets paid off, and that's a nice little play there. So he moves up beyond the 50k mark. Del Boy moves down below the 100. I would like to see him throw this away. He does, yeah, good. It's a rubbish hand. Not going to make very much with it. Just throw it away. Another one to throw away if anything happens. Yeah, just throw it away.
Second time he's raised with 9-10.
Yeah. He's trying to get back his chip lead, I think. Well, his original chip lead. This I don't mind calling with, but he throws it, okay. I don't mind calling with it. It's connected, it's middling. It's not a disastrous hand, it can make stuff.
We haven't really seen any limping here, have we?
No, they've been playing quite aggressive pre-flop.
They're either folding or raising pre-flop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a limp merchant myself.
I'm a limp merchant heads up as well. Sometimes I'll be limping with rubbish, and then sometimes I'll be limping with a premium hand.
They're quite deceptive. Well, Arden Fast wins that one. He's back up to 55. Highest he's been, I think. He's going to his next target will probably be around 60. Let's see if he gets there.
Well, whatever happens here, Mark, we've seen a tremendous comeback from Arden Fast.
Yeah, he's battling well, isn't he? Battling very well. And Arden Fast probably won't throw this, and he won't. And Del Boy's got rights to believe that his ace-10 is in the lead.
And Arden Fast will play this club draw, I should think. In fact, he'll re-raise with it.
And,
not feeling so comfortable now.
No, but he'll probably have to shove in, and the problem was his Del Boy will probably call him. Yeah, he will look well. He's just said to him. Well, I would have... personally, I don't like the re-raise. Well,
he's called. And he catches a 7 on the river, and we've got a new chip leader.
No, that was poor play. I've got to say, Arden Fast, he played well up to that point, but that was poor. That was poor. You've got out of jail, and I'm sorry, but that wasn't good. That wasn't good.
Arden should have folded, do you think?
Well, I would have liked to have seen Arden call the bet or re-raise all in on the flop. One of the two. But he put a minimum raise in effect, or close to a minimum raise, and that was the wrong play. Totally the wrong play, in my opinion, for the simple reason that he made it cheap enough for Del Boy to call. There's an odds on that he's going to miss the flush draw. And now what does he do? Because he's in a way, he's out of position. Even though he's got the button, he's out of position because he's last to act. If the other guy bets all in, what does he do now? He can't call with the King 7, but he did. He, in effect, just called with the King 7, which is a bad play. So,
but of course, the river came to his rescue.
It did, yeah. That was very nasty, I've got to say, by Arden Fast.
Now we've seen the chip lead change hands again, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, according to my notes here, let's not forget that Arden Fast had 14,000 at one stage and Del Boy 136,000, almost a 10-to-1 chip lead on Arden Fast, and we've seen an incredible comeback. We've seen Arden Fast take the lead and have a 2-to-1 chip lead on Del Boy, and Del Boy has chipped back at him and now has a small chip lead on him. Tremendous contest, this, Mark.
It is, it's great, and I keep saying it every time I watch one of these, how great these tournaments are. If you want to practice multi-table tournaments, I don't think that you can get better games. It's really enjoyable to watch because you do get so much play in this game, and very few multi-table tournaments that I see, you do get this kind of play. Where you actually get a chance to play poker rather than just shove your chips in and hope for the best.
Del Boy's fighting back. Has a small chip lead. Once again, we see a pre-flop raise with 9-10. Takes the blind.
Personally, I like to sort of limp with that kind of hand, 9-10. Try and trap someone if I catch something.
Could be trouble for Del Boy. It's psychic laydown by Del Boy with
what did he have?
King 8 or King 6, I think.
Oh, really? Wow.
And Arden Fast doesn't get paid with his rockets. 10-9 again. We've seen him raise with these hands.
Arden Fast or the other guy?
Arden Fast and Del Boy have been raising with...
All right. He limps with it?
He limps with it.
Well, I said I like to limp with these hands. I like to limp with most hands, so... Well, he's picked up second pair and he's picked up top pair. He'll probably flat call here, I dare say. Now, he thinks that his 3 might be in the lead, and I don't blame him for that. You probably have to pay him off here. Yeah.
And they're almost even.
Yeah, they are very close now. And but he's going to win this hand. He's going to put a raise, knowing Del Boy.
Again, a good chunky raise. Doesn't really want to see a flop.
No. Well, I tend to sort of limp in with these hands a lot of the time.
Okay.
Probably not the best way of doing it because you won't hit sets that often. But I do like playing the flop rather than committing too many chips pre-flop. Because the problem is what will happen, John, is that there'll be a point during this heads-up tournament where I have a pair of 8s and the guy's sitting there with kings or aces, and I'm going to lose a lot of chips pre-flop. And if I limp in and he raises me, I can just flat call. If I hit my set, I can get rid of it.
Interesting raise pre-flop with 6-7, Mark. Man after your own heart, or is 6-7 just too weak for you?
I would call. I would just call with it, personally. As I said, I play a very unusual game, heads up. I don't raise very often.
He lays down the ace-6 or ace-5.
Yeah, that was a strange play. I definitely wouldn't have been. I wouldn't fold ace-5. Unless the guy's never ever raised and all of a sudden he's raising, then maybe. But that hasn't been the situation. He has been raising occasionally.
And they're almost plumb even here, Mark.
He's done it again. Del Boy's folding an ace. I think he might be sitting out.
You think he's disconnected?
I think he might be disconnected or something. I can't believe that he's folding ace and an ace twice to small bets.
He must be disconnected. Now, it's a skill in itself to know what to do here.
Well, obviously, if Arden Fast realises it.
He is.
That's why he's raising with 10-4.
He's going to raise everything.
Yeah, he's raising every time minimum until he gets hooked up again.
Del Boy is frantically trying to get back into it. Meanwhile, he's getting blinded away. What a terrible thing if the tournament is decided like this from 100 players. Yeah. He's going to raise with 8-2 and Queen's going to lay it down. No! Or does he know he's back?
I don't know. We'll soon see if he folds this next hand or not. Let's have a look. Well, he could fold 2-9 anyway. No, he's actually there now.
I think he's there now, yeah.
Yeah, so he realised he was there, which is why he didn't raise with 8-2. But he folds anyway, don't blame him. And be interesting to see how he plays now, Del Boy, but he might feel, he might be a little bit on tilt from being disconnected there, and the guy's now taking a chip lead, or he might handle it well and not be on tilt. Let's see. Oh, he's limped in.
And
well, look at that, flop the straight, yeah.
And the 9-8 may well think he's ahead here with a gut shot straight and middle pair.
Yeah, that's not a bad hand for Del Boy, is it?
He does think he's ahead.
Was he going to blast it like he did last time, John?
Flat call, come on, flat call. Yes. Take your time and flat call. What are you scared of, the flush? He did flat call, and he had the courage to check it again, and Del Boy may well make a continuation bet. He does. Is he going to flat call now or take it?
I think he might. No, I think he should raise here.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen a little raise there.
He's trap checked. He's trap checked on the river, and Del Boy's not having any of it.
No, he was worried now with that other jack coming. He was worried that might have helped him. So I think a missed opportunity. I think I would have liked to have made a minimum raise on the turn there, and a little sucker in bet on the end. And once he'd made that minimum raise, he would have been more or less pot committed. He's only got 40,000 now. He might have felt that he has to give away another 10 or 15 to see what this, what his hand is. Especially with that giant pot, the pot would have been even bigger. He's now getting even better pot odds to call with his middle pair.
Right. Well.
And once people are in that situation, they start believing that actually that jack probably didn't help him, because now it means less likely there's a jack. So you start thinking of the reverse reasons why you want to call.
At no stage did he ever read him for 9-10, that's for sure.
No.
But,
no, I don't think he did.
Cute play from Arden Fast there, who has somehow overcome a 10-1 chip disadvantage and now has almost a 2-1 chip advantage.
Well, he's...
now what happened here?
Slow played it.
He slow played it, and...
Oh, look, he's... if a jack comes, we'll definitely see curtains. Well, he... I'm actually surprised. I'll tell you why, because I don't think he read it properly, Del Boy. Sure, the board was scary, but he had to draw for the scary board. That was the thing. Sure, he didn't have the clubs, but he did have a blocker for the straight, which means if a jack comes, that's actually good for him anyway. So that's okay to... if he had aces, that's a different story, because a jack, could cause a lot of trouble for him. But he had kings, which means that it would have made him a straight. So I don't think he read the situation properly. He just saw the board, said, "Oh, that's scary. I won't slow play my kings anymore." And he didn't actually think that that board was actually quite helpful to his kings.
Well, this is the best heads-up contest I've ever seen on this programme, Mark.
Yeah, it's a long one. I've seen some good ones on here, I must admit.
So far it's had everything. Chip leads changed hands 3 times. We've had a disconnect. We've had a lot of interesting hands. We've had slow play, fast play.
So you think maybe Del Boy needs to invest in a better router, possibly?
I don't know. I wouldn't be doing this unless it was on broadband, frankly. But even on broadband, you can get disconnected, of course. Every player's nightmare. And just as a side story, it happened to me last week. On the turn, I've got an unbeatable straight, whatever comes next. Got all my chips in the pot, disconnected, and it happened to be a site where it considers a disconnect to be a fold.
But you said you had all your chips in the pot anyway?
Yeah, but they consider a disconnect to be a fold. When I got back to the table, it was on a cash table, busted out.
But you had all your chips in?
Yeah. And then a sign came up on the table saying any disconnect is taken as a fold. So even though I've got all my chips in the pot, it's taken as a fold.
But you're all in?
And yeah, I know, this is what is extraordinary.
That's not good. That's not a good site.
Check your... Yeah, it wasn't a good site. I shan't be playing there again. Check your site rules before you play.
Yeah.
Of course, you do have disconnect.
I can understand if you disconnect and your chips aren't in the middle, then that's different.
Yeah.
If you disconnect, it's fold. All right, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But to have all your chips in and then you fold, you don't, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to mention the name of the site. But
No.
I wasn't happy.
No, I bet you weren't. That's not a good rule. That's a terrible rule by the software providers, and they should be thinking of their players a little bit more.
In their defence, it was a table that was clearly advertised as no disconnect protect.
But that usually means, John, when people say that, that usually means that the no disconnect protect is because of the situation. If you disconnect and you've already invested some money in the pot.
That's what I thought.
But that's what it means. It doesn't usually mean that you've got all your money in the pot. Did you actually have everything in it? Not even a penny left?
Not in a penny left. I saw it go in, and it was at the minute, the second that it went in, that's when the disconnect happened. It took me, I had to reboot everything, and it took me 10 minutes to get back on. And anyway.
Did you speak to them?
No, I didn't see any point.
I think you should have done.
Too late by that stage.
I think you should have emailed them to tell them what happened and say, the no disconnect is purely for when you're not all in. I can't see why they would do that. I think it was a software bug.
Anyway, in the meantime, Mark, Arden Fast has taken a huge lead here.
He has. He's got a tremendous advantage. This is going to be the hand.
Del Boy decides this is the
time.
Queen
or a 10 or a jack.
It doesn't come, and it's all over. And Arden Fast makes the greatest comeback in Poker Night Live history.
Yeah, he's going to feel gutted, Del Boy, isn't he? He's just won a nice prize, but he's going to feel like he's been, robbed.
Well, he can blame the disconnect.
At knife point.
He lost about 20% of his chips on the disconnect. It didn't help at all.
No, it didn't, but the problems arose really just before that, didn't they?
They did, but they were about even when he had that disconnect.
Yeah.
He lost about 20% of his chips. Arden Fast took full advantage of the disconnect, played as quickly as possible, started raising with rubbish.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that's what you should do when you spot a disconnect. And that gave Arden Fast the chip lead, and he ground it home from there.
Yeah, he did.
But an incredible comeback.
Yeah, still a good game. So well done, Del Boy. Well done, Arden Fast. So, having said that, I don't like Arden Fast's play with the King 7 calling. I thought that was bad play, and he just got lucky. So, naughty boy, Arden Fast, and I like you, Del Boy. So, we were talking about some emails, if possible. I think we've got a one that we were doing from Chris earlier. You got to the point where he said to get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay. To get down to the nitty-gritty, 210 players start the tournament, with the blind starting at 10 and 20 compared to the chip stacks 3,000. I just play my normal game and don't get involved early unless I've got a big hand. Okay, fair enough. Standard play, really. Especially as my table's pretty active. I bide my time and I'm dealt queen-queen in early mid-position. Well, which is it, early or mid-position?
Sort of early mid, I think. It's
early mid, okay.
3 hands, 3 in.
I make a raise of 5 times the big blind, with the blinds around 25 and 50, and I get one caller, the big blind. The flop comes 10-8-3 rainbow. After the player checks, I bet around 80% of the pot, which is around half the player's stack. He/she moves all in, and I call. The player turns over Jack 10 offsuit, and I'm outdrawn when a 10 comes on the turn. I'm left with around 11,000 chips, so I think 1,100 chips, excuse me. So I think to myself, at least I've still got over 20 big blinds. Hopefully, I can wait for the right opportunity to double up. I play the short stack as well, as I feel I could have, and after making some tricky folds and moves, we get down to 21 players, with the top 20 getting paid. 11th to 20th place, $700 each. You can see where this is going. Yes, he's going to get bubbled, isn't he? By this time, I'm the shortest stack. What's to my advantage is that the table is playing reasonably tight, minimum raises, taking most pots. What became the problem is when I had the cards I felt I could make a move with, you could guarantee there'd be a raise and re-raise before me, and I'd just have to fold. There were obviously good players at the table, stealing blinds, and I'd have to fold, having not picked up any cards. I could even consider calling or having enough to re-raise. The situation is this: I'm now down to 5,180 with the blinds at 600 and 1,200. Okay, so that's 1,800 total. So your M is just over 3. You're below the red line there. Pretty desperate. This is a lot lower than I would normally allow myself to get, but still think I made the correct decisions up to this point to keep me in the tournament. Everyone folds to me, and I have King Queen of Hearts, one off the button with 7-handed. I still believe that the players behind me need a big hand to call after watching the way they played for the past hour or so. However, the small blind calls one of the shorter stacks of around 11,000 chips, my most unlikely caller, so I thought being half her chips, my most unlikely caller, so I thought being half her chips. Ace 10 of spades is turned over and the rest is history. Although I made 2-pair on the river, it happened to give the other player the nut straight. Finally, all I want to know is, should I have folded in this situation? This was by far the best hand I'd seen in a long time. Well, that's irrelevant, although not an excuse. Another round at the table would make a call so much easier for another player if I moved. But I truly thought it would take a medium-high pair or big ace to call from the players still to act, which is unlikely. If I folded, someone else could get knocked out. Yet again, they might not. Another day, who knows? I double up and go on a card rush and take the $25,000 first prize. Appreciate the advice. Great show as always. Well, your bad beat, Chris, with the Queen when you've been effectively check raised by the Jack 10, who's hit top pair. Obviously, that's a bad beat. That took a great deal of your chips, but am I right in thinking you finished 7th here? You said you were 7-handed?
No, I don't think so. I think he I think he finished in the 11th or 20th place somewhere. Or on the bubble. No, on the bubble, I think he said. Did he?
It doesn't quite say. One stage you say there were 21 players,
yeah,
and we were expecting you to get bubbled, but then later on in your email you say we are 7-handed, so maybe you're talking about at your table, you're 7-handed.
Yeah, 7-handed, yeah, because there's 3 tables of 7, so probably 21 players.
I think we have to believe you got bubbled here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. I don't think you done anything wrong, personally. You know, I think you've got to take a chance at some point, and King-Queen in the cut-off, was it the cut-off or thereabouts, is not a bad hand to have a go at. So I think at some point you've got to take a chance. Now, if you feel there are a lot of shorter stacks than you around, and one of those could go out and it means that you're guaranteed $700, then that's a different story. But I do think that, you know, I'm a bit more of a risk taker, so I'm likely to take a chance. By the same token, I would look around me to see if there is a couple of short stacks around. If there's 2 short stacks, then I probably will leave it alone. If there's 1 short stack, then I'll probably take the chance.
Okay.
What about you, John?
I'm just trying to fully understand this email. If I understand it correctly...
He's finished on the bubble, definitely.
Okay, he's finished on the bubble, but
yeah,
his finishing hand is King-Queen of hearts.
Yeah.
And he walks into Ace 10 of spades.
Yeah.
You hit 2-pair on the river, but that happened to give the other guy the nut straight.
Yeah.
So, well, he was ahead of you when he called you. He knows that he can call light in that situation when you've got an M of about 3. I don't think you can criticise his call with Ace 10 suited. No. And he did start as something like a 60% favourite when he called you. So I mean, although if you've played King-Queen and hit 2-pair, you'd normally expect to win, but it's not a terrible beat, Chris. Finally, all I want to know is, should I have folded in this situation? No, I really don't think so.
I don't think so, but as I said, out of the 21 players, if you're the shortest stack, then definitely not. If there's 1 shorter stack than you, and you can see by looking at the other table that he's big blind in the next couple of hands, and probably he should fold. If there's 2 short stacks then below you, then maybe it's worth a fold. But the situation has to be that there's a good chance that someone's going to go out before you, and that's really what you're looking at that point. The whole thing is based on whether you feel someone is likely to go out before you. That's all you have to really decide. And if you can decide that, yes, someone is going to go out in the very near future before me, then you should fold. Simple as that. Because, you know, $700 is $700, you know. It's a decent amount. But if you feel that you're the shortest stack, no one's going to go out before me, then you have to take a chance. And it's as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned.
I take a slightly different view in that if you say the first prize is $25,000, that's what you should be shooting for. And if you fold that hand, it's fairly clear you're not going to get anywhere near the first prize. If you win that hand, as you pointed out at the end, you double up and go on a card rush and take the $25,000 first prize. And I still think that's what you should be aiming for.
Yeah.
I don't like limping in.
I say that, I'll tell you why though. I'm thinking of his situation. His situation is a little bit different. He's been playing $50 freeze-outs, $20 rebuys. So this is a guy that doesn't normally play $300 things. So this is big money to him. You know, winning a $700 prize is a decent amount. Now, if he's been playing his week in, week out, that's different. But he's not. So this is a big win for him. This is more than double his entry fee. And I think he'd be generally pretty satisfied with that. You know, his first big tournament and a big win.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's the other thing. Thanks very much for your email there, Chris. We've also got an email from Martin, a.k.a. Stanzas, and he's just given me a poem which I've read. I actually read it during the break a moment ago, and it's a lovely poem. And you can have a little read of it. We won't read it here because it's been read out already, but if you want to have a look of what we're talking about, go to our forum, http://www.pokernightlive.co.uk, go to the forum, type the words poem in the search, and it will come up with the poem. So that's a nice email. Thanks very much for that, Martin. Very talented young man. And we've got an email from Ambience, and Ambience is saying, hi, I've got a question about representing hands and the size of the bet that they would usually be best in this situation. Okay, I had ace-jack and raised it pre-flop with one call. The flop comes king high with two spades, and the other player bet a small amount, around a third of the pot, and I read him for a king with a high kicker trying to bet me off the flush draw. Okay, fair enough, so you've read the situation like it is. I decided to set up representing the flush if the spade came, which it did on the river. I had called a smallish bet on the turn, a spade hits the river, and I bet 275 into a $5 pot, hoping to represent a value bet to a player who clearly understood the game from his chat rather than trying to push him off the hand with a big bet, which looks a bit dodgy when the flush hits. In this case, he folded and I took the pot down. What do you think large raises or what look like sucker bets are the best here? I would tend to view that the more the player knows, the more a value bet would look stronger, but it's difficult to decide. And you're right. I think the key here is knowing which player. You see, you're playing at an 8-handed table. Each player in that situation will probably do a different thing. And that's the thing. You've got to decide which player decides that the bet is a value bet and decides to fold it because it's a value bet. Which player needs a big pressure bet to decide to fold. And you've got to make that decision. You know, you've got to make that decision. You've got to see who's prepared to call big bets and who is not prepared to call big bets with mediocre hands. And once you've got a tell on that table as to who's going to call the big bets, who's going to fold the value bets, then you can ascertain who's going to do what, and then you make your bet accordingly. But that's really what you need to do to make that judgment. But it works sometimes, so you've got to try different things. And if you don't have the information, then you've got to make try it and see what happens really. But try it, for what you think you can get away with. So I hope that helps a little. Thanks very much for that, Ambience. That was a nice email. And we've got a text from Sonic John.
Okay.
What do you think about this one? He's saying, how does, well, you probably know about this, John. How does tax affect poker winnings? And if you're a pro, do you declare income made from poker? Is this the same in USA and Europe?
As far as I know, poker earnings and gambling earnings are not taxable in this country. I don't know about the USA and I don't know about the rest of Europe.
Okay.
And I may be wrong in this country, but I'm fairly sure that they are not declarable, and whatever you make on poker, you are not legally obliged to declare this to the revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that's the case too, because it's at the moment it's considered gambling. So until the law is changed where poker isn't considered gambling, then as far as I know, then that is the case. In terms of USA and Europe, I don't know a place in Europe I don't know a country in Europe that doesn't tax poker winnings. So I think everywhere does, and definitely in the USA they do tax poker winnings. You have to declare it, but by the same token, you can offset your entry fees and stuff like that against it. So thanks very much for that, Sonic. Hope that answers your question. And I think that's we've got in terms of questions. So I think it's time. Oh no, we've got one from Damien. I don't know if we've got time for this. Let's have a look, John. Right, really quick. Hi, Damien. Hi, John and Prince Charlie. I have a question that I have never heard asked or answered during the year. I've watched P&L. I play live regularly and play about 30 hours plus per week. Online multi-table tournaments, $1, $2, or 3 and 6 no-limit games. I'm well versed in the game and profit. So bearing in mind, like I said, we're not going to have time. As fast as I'm going, we're not going to have time. I'm going to have to round up. I'm sorry, Damien. I will leave it for tomorrow's presenter. Ask them to do it if they can. However, unfortunately, we've run out of time, so thanks for being with us tonight, and unfortunately, it's goodbye. So goodbye from me, and goodbye from John.
Bye-bye.